Evening. I'm calling the Lunenburg Finance Committee meeting of Thursday, March 12th, 2026 to order. In accordance with the requirements of the open meeting law, please be advised that this meeting is being recorded and broadcast over the Lunenburg Public Access Channel and on Facebook Live on Public Access Facebook page. There are also a toll-free phone number if you want to join, and there's a Zoom link if you want to join. Both of those are on the agenda that can be found on lunenburgma.gov. And with that, if we can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Are there any announcements from anyone? You had an announcement?
I'd just like to let the board know, first of all, good evening. I'd like to let the board know that the free cash was certified this week.
Excellent.
For the general fund, it's $3,354,370. And I'd really, really like to thank Karen Brochu. She put together the audit or the free cash submission to the state, and she did a really good job, of course. And I'd just really like to thank her for stepping in to help us out. So, thank you.
Excellent.
Good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Any other announcements? All right. Any public comment from the public? All right. Any public comment from the committee? All right, moving right along. Any town manager or finance director reports? Nope, excellent. Look at that, we're halfway through the agenda. All right, so tonight, we have several presentations. So what the order I think we'll go through is DPW and then sewer. Then we'll do land use. Then we'll let trust funds do any other moneyed articles, and then go back to the rest of administration, unclassified, and debt service. So, I think Linda and Mylene, we're probably going to be about an hour until or hopefully an hour, until we get to your sections. You're free to stay on, or if you want to drop off and come back on, that is also fine. And with that, I will turn it over to Bill for the DPW and then the sewer. And do you want me to drive, or do you want to drive?
You can drive.
Okay. All right, DPW. Share. All right, over to you.
All right, thank you. All right, so good evening. Thanks for having me here tonight. This is for the Department of Public Works budget presentation. And again, my name is Bill Bernard, the DPW director. So the DPW, we have the highway division, which is the roads and all the appurtenances on the roads. We take care of the pavement management, stormwater, bridges, culverts, trees, roadside vegetation maintenance, landfill monitoring, recycling and trash program, Lake Shirley Dam, winter operations, cemetery, wastewater, and fleet management. So we take care of quite a bit. The next slide is our organizational structure. So at the top is the DPW director. We have an executive assistant that's shared with facilities. And then we have our highway superintendent. Under him, we have 5 people. In the winter, we hire intermittent heavy equipment operators as needed. We have our mechanic, we have our cemetery superintendent, and in the summer, we hired seasonal help there. Then we have our sewer business manager. Under him, we have a assistant, and we have a tax write-off clerk. So this year, in my budget, I'm asking if we could add a part-time clerk for the DPW and facilities to help with our executive assistant. That person would be part-time and no benefits. The work that they would do would include assisting in tracking and spending and spending in different contracts and spending per facility, assist with the accounts payable, timesheets, filing, and much more. It's, right now, the executive assistant is kind of overworked, so we do need the help. On the next slide, it just shows some of the trends where we're spending a lot of the money. And the first graph there, you can see we're spending a lot of money on pavement management every year. And snow and ice has been, the spending there has been pretty high. This year, it's even worse with all the snow. And then on the other chart, you can see the stormwater spending. It's kind of up and down there, but it's on the rise. And the last couple of years, I've been here pushing to get money for trees, which thankfully I got. So we've spent a bunch of money on trees in the last few years. During this winter, we didn't have any trees come down, so it made a difference for us.
So just, Bill, in the future, I think what we were looking for on this was some kind of metrics associated with things. So as an example for trees, I know we had a 5-year tree plan. If we go and do another 5-year tree cutting plan and there's 1,000 trees on that, you kind of want to show that, we're cutting 200 trees a year. Stormwater, you may do things like, catch basin, cleanouts per year,
Okay.
So we're trying to get towards the metrics associated with that so that we kind of show not just the dollars, so that
Okay.
we can kind of tie the dollars to it, so.
All right, good to know. So the next slide, it's just a overall look at the budget, 3.178 million, which is higher than previous years. This budget covers all of our needs and all of the mandatory work we have to do. It also adds that one person, the part-time person. It restores the pavement management money that was reduced last year, and it adds money for the MS4 permit compliance for stormwater. So we can get pretty close to compliance with that.
Which lines are those under, the numbers?
Well, as we go through,
Okay.
I'll talk about them specifically, so. And then I have that note there in the yellow, the town manager presented her preliminary budget. This is slightly different. The difference is this restores the pavement management back to the 650,000 where it should be in quotes, right? And the town manager's budget only shows 279,000 for pavement management.
So just a question as we go. Sometimes the ask doesn't reflect what's in your current budget, the town manager's current budget that's been presented to us. Are they aligned, or is the ask different than the town?
Just on this one. So the difference between the preliminary budget and this budget only differs in this one line.
Okay,
Just the pavement management plan.
but the
no-
ask is now in your budget. In the past, we've had department asks that were not reflected in the town manager's budgets.
So the ask in terms of the part-time person is in the budget.
Okay.
The ask in terms of the increase to drainage is in the budget. The ask in terms of the additional monies for stormwater is in the budget, it is in the preliminary budget. This is the only deviation between the two, is the pavement management line.
Okay, so when you come with your final budget, it will be in there.
No, I am not supporting the pavement,
Okay.
this increase in the final budget.
Okay, that's what I'm getting at.
Oh, yes, I am not supporting the restoration of the pavement management plan in the final budget.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we can move to the next slide. So I broke it down by department. So the first one is trees. So the only, I am looking for a slight increase there is in the salaries. The reason for that is the DPW right now, their collective bargaining agreement expired in FY '24. So they're negotiating a new agreement now. So obviously their rates are going to go up. So I'm just looking for a little extra money to cover that difference. All right, the next slide is general highway, which covers a lot. So I am looking for an increase in the drainage line. There's a lot of drainage issues in town, right? I get a lot of calls on that, flooding issues or people getting water in their yards, that kind of stuff. We've been trying to take care of a lot of that, so we have been spending more than the budget, so I'm looking for a little increase there. The streetlights, we had, a couple years ago, estimated 30,000. We're actually spending more than that in '24 and '25, and this year it's going to go over again, so we're looking for a little increase there. The big increase here is the 340,000 in the stormwater line item, and that would get us pretty close to compliance with the MS4 permit, and that money would be used for catch basin cleaning and sweeping of the roadways. So that is mandated by the federal government. We're not where we should be. I do have a couple of metrics on that. Where did I put it? So just doing the work in-house, the best we've done in the last 3 years, we've done 30% of the work for the catch basin cleaning and 22% of the work for the sweeping. So we're not even coming close. So we do need some money there to hire contractors to get this work done. And then the other one, which we had just been talking about, is the pavement management plan. If we were going on that regular schedule of increasing by 50,000 per year, would be at 650,000 this year.
You're not getting it done because you don't have enough money or because you don't have enough staff?
The stormwater,
The 22% on sweeping and catch basin.
yeah. Well, both, right? So if we had more staff, we could get it done. I did a little spreadsheet on that. I think 3 people working pretty much all summer on catch basin cleaning and sweeping, I think we could get it done. 3 new people. So I can't do it with the staff I have now. We're too small. There's only 5 people, right? So to do the sweeping, that's 2 people, 1 in a sweeper, 1 in a dump truck. The catch basin cleaning can be 1 person. But we also have the roadside mower, that should be out pretty much all summer. So that's 4 people already, right? So you can't do much with 1 person
Yeah, it's
if I
just,
dedicate everybody to that work.
okay. I want to just be clear if it's an issue because it's not funded enough or it's not staffed enough, because those are 2 completely different.
Well, we have 2 options, right? You could give me more staff, or we can contract it out. So I did a spreadsheet on that. I think it'll cost us about $100,000 less per year to contract it out. So I think that's a better way to go.
I agree.
All right. All right, any other questions on this slide?
No.
What's the cost on the streetlights? Because the streetlights are all new.
Yeah, so that's, it's the electricity charges on it.
That's just the electricity charge?
Yeah.
Weren't those green light, weren't those all through the?
The LED, yep.
Yeah.
So is that just, we estimated it too low, a drop too low, or is this, it didn't go down at all?
No, well, I don't know what it wasn't in my budget prior to the change to LEDs. Excuse me. So I don't know what was paid beforehand. But when we changed over to LED lights, it dropped into my budget. So with the first year, we estimated 30,000. I think we came in at just over 30,500. And then last year was 35,000.
Where did it live before?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
So it just showed up?
In my
It was
budget,
not in
yeah.
DPW, I think, until we changed over through the Green Communities and bought the streetlights and changed, converted to LEDs, and then it went to DPW. And before that, it was either in general government or facilities, I'm not sure which.
Well, probably general government, because facilities
Yeah.
are pretty new. And was
Yeah,
part
it
of
was not, it was not
Right.
in DPW, converted over to new.
Okay, it may be an opportunity as we kind of rebalance where our electricity credits go to as well. Because it seems like we have more credits than we're applying properly, according to Chris Ruth.
Yes, that's correct. We need to balance out the solar credits somehow.
Yeah, okay.
All right, the next slide is garage supplies. We can level fund that. The next slide is the highway salaries. So these are the salaries for the highway crew from FY '24 and for the other crew from FY '26. So again, the highway crew's negotiating a new CBA. We're not sure what their new rates are going to be. Myself and the clerical union, that we're at the FY '26 rates. We don't know what's going to happen in FY '27 yet. The clerical unions, they're also negotiating their CBA. On the next slide, I talk about that. To give us a rough idea of how much money, more money it might cost, I just added, what did I do here? A 3% increase for the DPW workers in FY '25, '26, and '27, bumped them up 3% each year. I bumped up the clerical union by 3% and the SAP employee me by 3%, and it looks like it's about almost $52,000. Just to give us a rough idea how much more salaries will be.
So when you say FY '25 and '26, are you saying there might be a retro?
It's a
Are those-
possibility, yes, because they haven't had a CBA since '24. So I know the guys hope there's a retro. We're in negotiations. We'll see where it lands.
Okay.
All right, the next slide is the snow and ice budget. I think we started this last year just to increase it by 2.5% each year, just to close the gap between, the budget and what we're actually spending, but not going too crazy because we can deficit spend for snow and ice.
Okay, and I think I heard we're about 800,000 this?
That's about where we're at right now. Yep. All right, the next slide is our traffic signs. So the electricity charge, again, they're going up, so I bumped that up just a little bit. The line painting, I actually pulled that one down. So that line there, we're going to spend on the stop bars and crosswalks. The long lines, I put into the paving contract, so that can come out of the pavement management line. So that reduces this line, right, by $12,000. All right, the next slide is the vehicle maintenance. I am looking for an increase in our purchase of service line item. And if you look back, you can see in '25, we spent $20,000 on a $5,000 budget. It's, costs are going up. So that one there, we spend the money on, where is it here? Outsourced truck repairs, right? So if there's something we can't do in-house, we got to send it out. That's where the bulk of that money is being spent. Right, and that line item's used for shop supplies, inspection stickers, and other stuff like that. And somehow the police and fire falls under that same department. I'm sure they talked to you about this already.
They did, yeah.
They were looking for an increase in the fire department purchase of service. And the next line item is cemetery. Again, the salaries, it's under negotiation, we don't know. The seasonal salaries, I'm asking for a very small increase there. What else? And then everything else is level funding. And then the next slide is the recycling program. So we had a much bigger budget last year. I estimate it to be $350,000 this year. Took a harder look at what we're actually doing. I could show it in the next couple slides. We're not spending the $470,000. I think we get away with, 363, so big cut there. The next slide is the trash program, the pay-as-you-throw. It's kind of self-funding. It's about $500,000 per year. And the next slide, I have a couple graphs that show that. So on the next slide is the slides. You can see on the top in the blue is the trash, how many tons of trash, and the associated costs with that. So trash is going up, how much people are throwing away. And on the recyclables, you can see it's actually coming down a little bit. It's, how much people are recycling, so the prices are coming down a little bit. Our friends at DEP don't appreciate that. They want to see these graphs going in the opposite directions. They want to see trash down and recycling up. But that's where we're at. And the funding sources, so most of the funding source for DPW is the operational budget. We do have Chapter 90 funds, which can be used for road projects, can't be used for maintenance. And I'm always looking out for different grants. The next slide shows some of the grants we have now. We had the small bridge grant of $600,000 from the state for the Flat Hill Road Bridge. I have an asset management grant for stormwater from the Mass Clean Water Trust. That's $60,000. So we're trying to map our stormwater system. I just got notified today of a grant for a speed feedback trailer, which I can use different places. So I should be getting that this summer. There's other grants out there I've applied for, a MassDOT Community Culvert Grant for $150,000 for engineering for the culvert on Goodrich Street at Easterbrook. Hopefully we get that one. And I will be applying for another MassDOT Complete Streets grant for sidewalk construction for Chestnut Street, Highland Ave. That'll connect like the sidewalks from the high school over to Marshall Park, and do some other sidewalk repairs. I'm going to be asking for $1 million for that. I have a cost estimate of $1 million to put in and repair the sidewalks. Then the next slide, I got 2 slides on Chapter 90 spending, and they kind of hinge, it's 2 different schemes based on the pavement management, right? So the pavement management line item is reduced. I'm going to have to use more Chapter 90 funds for pavement management and do less of the drainage and culvert replacement projects. And that's what's showed on this slide. And the next slide is the opposite. So if the pavement management line is restored, I don't have to spend as much Chapter 90 funds on pavement management. I could spend more on the drainage and culvert projects.
Right, so I'm not caught up yet. I'm still looking at the spending plan. Okay, so between the 2 of these, because I don't see them side by side,
Yeah.
are there additional projects in the second page that weren't on the first page, or is it just accounting for pavement management plan?
So the first page in that, like the third out years, right, the 3 outer years, the drainage projects go away, right? All the money is going to be spent on pavement management. On the second one, those projects come back, right? The drainage projects come back. Spending on pavement management is less.
Okay, and then your assumption is that you're not getting additional funds from the millionaire's tax in the, this year and going forward?
Yeah, it's not a guarantee, right? So I didn't put it in there. In the Chapter 90, last year, they gave us double, right? I think this year they're going to give us double, but is that going to happen again? I don't know. So I
When do
just
we know-
kept the,
When do we know that?
We have this year's.
oh, we already know for sure? Okay.
This year meaning 27?
Yes, I'll get that for you.
Okay.
Okay, so that'll change this a little bit, the spending plan a little bit, right? But going forward, do we know if we're gonna get the double? We don't, so I didn't put it in there.
Well, if we continue with double, I mean, that's $1.6 million over the period here, almost 1.7 million.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be a great help, and we could get some of these other drainage projects done, yeah.
Okay. And none of this assumes a stormwater utility?
Correct.
Okay.
Right, so the next page is kind of a recap, again, talking about the pavement management line, how it relates to Chapter 90 funds, right? Like we're just talking about, if we have pavement management restored, then we can do more drainage work, and if we don't, we can't, right? Then the other big driver here that bumped me up was the $340,000 in the stormwater line to get us into compliance with the MS4 permit. Right, if we don't restore that, we risk fines, probably not, but we risk them, and the town's water bodies will be impaired, or continue to be impaired.
Do we know any towns that are being fined for that?
I've only heard of one, and I think they kind of told EPA, no, we're not doing anything, right? So we've done a lot of the initial work, right? We have our bylaws for new construction. We've done that. We've done some of the cleaning, right? some of the investigations we're supposed to do. So is EPA going to come down on us? Probably not, but there's always the risk.
So I guess my question would be, if they did come down on us, is it like just slam, drop the hammer, or is it like, you guys got a year to get in compliance, or we're gonna come down on
Yeah,
you?
it would probably be a letter saying you have to do X, Y, Z by this date.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think they're just going to come in and say, here's your $5,000 a day fine, or $50,000 a day fine.
Is there anything good in your notes?
That's it. Well, that's the chapter 90. So, Jen, is this year 718,000? FY '27, 718,000. And we typically get around 415,000.
Would you say 718?
718.
Okay. All right. Are there any questions?
Yeah, why wouldn't we prioritize the stormwater management as far as street sweeping and catch basin cleaning over doing roadside mowing? Roadside mowing is not mandated.
Why would we prioritize it?
Yeah,
Because we're
you said
mandated
that
to do it.
You didn't have enough employees and that the roadside mower has to go out all summer long. And I'm saying roadside mowing isn't mandated. Stormwater, catch basin, street cleaning is mandated. Why wouldn't we work on that? Even means in conjunction with bringing in contractors till we get caught up at a point where it becomes manageable.
But again, to do all the catch basin cleaning and sweeping, I think it'll take 3 guys full-time for like 3 months, right? I can't dedicate the crew to that, right? We have other work to do too, so we
But some of
try
that
to
can
do
be
as
done
much as we
year-round.
can.
Some of that work can be done year-round. Doesn't have to all be done in
So-
summertime.
You can't really sweep in the winter.
Well,
Catch basin
not every
cleaning,
winter,
maybe.
depending how dry it is. But catch basin cleaning, unless, like this winter would be tough. But we
Yeah.
had dry winters where it could be done. But I guess I'm saying, why don't we prioritize that over roadside mowing?
We try to mix it up. We try to do some of each, right?
I understand, but this is
Nobody calls my office saying, well, I do get a few calls, you didn't sweep the road, but I do get a lot of calls, I can't see coming out of this intersection, can you cut the brush back?
But you do that every year.
Yeah,
You're saying every year the brush is going back that much?
oh, yeah,
Well, maybe in some parts of town, but I don't know about
Yeah.
all parts of town, but.
right.
I would
We're not
still-
getting every road, we prioritize certain roads in certain intersections, we try to get those, and
Yes, but this MS4 permit has been mandated. It should be looked at as more of a priority.
good point.
Right? And
I mean,
two-
it's also less than 1 man year to do those catch basins, and you said 3 FTEs for 3 months is not
Yeah.
even a man year. I don't know.
And you're already doing almost, you said like 22%, you're already doing?
That was our best year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, that was when I had a full staff, nobody was out injured.
I like the idea of outsourcing that. I mean, you don't have the equipment, you're not paying for, long-term benefits, health insurance, retirement, et cetera. So, and it seemed like you were underspent on some of those lines anyways, so it seems like it's something that could just be handled. Go hire someone to do those services.
Are you saying within the existing budget? Or without adding? Or
Yeah.
Without adding? I don't think so. Catch basin cleaning, I think I estimated at $108,000. I don't even have, one of my line items isn't that big. It would probably come out of general highway purchase and service. That line item's only, what, 45,000? So that's not even half, plus all the other stuff that we gotta do out of that line item.
You wouldn't use Chapter 90 funding?
You can't for maintenance
But you can for something else.
projects, yeah.
I mean, your actual spending on stormwater for '23 and '25 was $48K and $59K.
Yeah, and then
And you're
24 was
increasing by
133.
$340K for catchwater basins, clean and sweeping,
Yeah.
and you said it was $108K.
For catch basin cleaning only.
How much does it cost to sweep the roads? I mean, we have
Well,
100
the
miles of
difference
roads. What, it's
340 minus 108, so about 240,000, right? 230,000.
Isn't there only so many miles that are mandated to be clean, though? It's not the whole town.
Yes, so that's the mandated miles.
Is how many?
It's 72 miles times 2. You got to do it twice a year, so 144 miles.
So how would you fund outsourcing of the catch basin cleaning?
I'm sorry, what was that?
How would you fund outsourcing of catch basin cleaning?
By that additional 340,000 I'm asking for.
That's part of that?
Yes. That's catch basin cleaning and sweeping.
Would you expect that number to go down after several years of doing this?
No, no. It's mostly labor cost, right?
It's supposed to what?
Labor. Right? There's,
Yeah, but the catch
you know,
basin
there's
clean.
a couple of guys in a
annual-
sweeper and dump trucks, right?
Yeah, but they're
Maybe they
cleaned on an annual basis.
do it
There should be less
slightly
material.
faster, but it's paid by the mile typically. So I don't think it'll go down.
So 144 miles at 240K is $1,600 per mile.
Yeah, that's the going rate.
I don't think so.
I got it from MassDOT contracts.
All right, send me that source. Send
Sure.
us that source.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry, Jay. Anything
All right.
else?
My only other thing is the part-time admin regarding facilities. Facilities were separated from DPW. Why is DPW sharing an admin with facilities?
When it got separated, they didn't add a admin for facilities. So the existing admin is now shared between both.
Well, I think that's something the town manager should address. That should be separated.
Well, I think he and Chris both talked about. He and Chris both mentioned that. Of increasing the,
Right. Chris was asking for it also, for part-time admin.
your ask is aligned with what Chris asked for.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
I guess I'm saying, why isn't it under facilities? Facilities were separated from DPW for a reason. The admin-
So to clarify, the additional part-time person would support the functionality of both offices, but primarily DPW. It is a administrative convenience to just continue to fund these positions out of one operating budget, and is really a distinction without difference by taking it from one and moving it from the left hand to the right hand. So The offices work closely together, they work under one union contract. There are a lot of reasons that combination of services to both departments continues to make sense. Hope that answers.
Anything else?
Okay.
No? All right, thank you. Anyone else? All right, thank you.
All right.
Next up is Bill for, all right, let me
right.
pull it up. Let me just,
Yep, me too. Slideshow.
all right. All right, I have your org chart up.
All right, so,
Okay, key services, sorry.
so this presentation is for the sewer enterprise. So for anybody who doesn't know, this is, to my left is Andrew Valier. He's our new, well, the year now, sewer business manager.
Welcome.
I'll have him answer all the questions.
Feel free to ask me anything.
All right, so department overview, the key services, the sewer commission bears the responsibility of overseeing the sewer enterprise fund planning for the future, developing and implementing rules, regs, and policies. Under the town charter, the DPW is responsible for the day-to-day operations and care and maintenance of the sewer system. So to note, the town does not have its own sewer treatment plant. So we send about 88% of our sewer goes to the city of, Leominster, and the other 12% goes to the city of Fitchburg. So we have intermunicipal agreements with them to do that. On the next slide is our organizational structure. So the sewer commission oversees the like I said, the whole department. The DPW director oversees the sewer business manager, who has an assistant, has a clerk, and a lot of our work is outsourced. We have an operation and maintenance contractor. And then the highway crew will assist only when needed, mostly emergencies, right? Because we're here, we can respond quick. But after that, our operation and maintenance contractor jumps in and takes over. The next slide shows our betterment. So when they put the sewer in, if you wanted a lateral at your house, you had to pay a betterment. So that was almost 20 years ago. So people could finance the betterment over 20 years. So the betterments are dropping out, right? You could see that in 28, they take a sharp drop, right? It's the blue line that's dropping. The other line there is the debt service. So that's what we owe to Fitchburg and Leominster. And fortunately, that's dropping too, but betterments are dropping more than debt service. So we're kind of in a negative there in 29 and going out further. So the next slide is our disposal cost to Leominster and Fitchburg, and you can see that's steadily climbing, right? More people are coming onto the system. Leominster and Fitchburg are charging us more, and unfortunately, the system's getting older. There's water sneaks into the system. It's called I&I infiltration, and it's an inflow. So if somebody has their sump pump pumping into the sewer system, which is illegal, but it happens we have to pay for that clean water to get cleaned, right? And then the next slide is our retained earnings. So they've been going down. So to balance our budget and to try not to give rate increases to our customers, we've been using retained earnings the last couple of years to balance our budget. But we feel we're at a point where we're getting too low. So this year, we're not going to dip into our retained earnings to try to level that graph out. So the next slide is our overall budget, just shy of $2 million. So because it's an enterprise fund, we have to show our expenses and we have to show our revenues. And right now, we're pretty close. We're showing a budget surplus estimated about $26,000. What drives our budget is mostly disposal costs. That's where a lot of our money goes. The shrinking betterments that I talked about, and we're not going to use our retained earnings, right? And the other driver would be our operation and maintenance contract. And then the other one I should have put on there too is more of capital repairs. So our system is approaching 25 years old, kind of at the end of the design life for some of the equipment in the pump houses. So we've been trying to replace pumps, replace controllers, replace rotten pipes. So we're spending some decent amount of money there. So the next slide shows our expenses on the left in the beige color, and our revenues on the right in the green color. I think the next few slides kind of dig into it more. Right, so the next slide is our start of our expenses. So of course we have the salaries, right? So again, the salaries, then they're not nailed down because they're potentially cost of living increases in FY27, we hope. So those will probably go up slightly, although I've calculated them up a little bit. The next slide is all our spending, right? So you see the first line item is, $899,000. That's what we're paying Leominster and Fitchburg. We're sending them our sewage, they're cleaning it up. That's what we're paying them. Couple of small increases here and there. Electricity, like DPW, those costs have gone up. Water charges, small increase there. Engineering services, we want to increase that one. Last year, we had, $30,000? And then DEP came along and said, we require all this information, and we have to go out and hire an engineer, $80,000. So we blew that budget pretty bad. So this DEP wants more stuff in the next few years, so we're going to be hiring that engineer again to help us out. So we got to bump that up a little bit. Postage, small increase. What else? Everything, we try to keep things level funded as much as we could. The last line item, the capital plan, that's where we're changing out our pumps and our pipes, and we put $200,000 there to do some of that work this year. Then the next line item is the debt service and money we have to pay to OPEB. And the next slide gets into our revenues. Some of these, well, pretty much everything is estimated, everything is estimated. The big change here is user charges, right? We went up from last year over $300,000. But last year, we used $300,000 in our retained earnings to balance the budget. Again, we don't want our retained earnings to tank, so we had to go up on user charges. The way we did that is we're going to have a rate increase. And I'll talk about that in a future slide. The next slide shows some of our other revenues. I don't know if you have any questions on those. The last line item there, the FBU's current year budget, that's our retained earnings that we're not going to use this year. So you can see it's zero. Last year was 307. And the next slide is a chart showing our revenues, where they're coming from. And you can see most of the revenues come from user charges, right? 71%. And the next biggest is betterments. But again, the betterments are going down. So in future years, it's going to come out of user charges, right? And then our next slide, it talks about the rate increase, right? So without the rate increase, we estimated the user charges at $1.2 million. That gives us a deficit of almost $200,000. We could take it out of our retained earnings, but the commission felt like we didn't want the retained earnings to go down anymore, so we're going to do a rate increase. So with the rate increase, our budget, we're showing a slight surplus, $26,000. Of course, it's all estimated, so.
So is that about a 20% rate increase?
The next slide shows that.
16.
So, it's coming up. So Leominster increased their rate that they charge us by 16% in FY '25. We didn't do a rate increase. We swallowed that. Leominster's going up again, or they went up again, 3% in FY '26. Fitchburg increased their rate by 7% in fiscal years '24, '25, '26, '27, '28, '29. So they're going up every year, right? So on that chart there, it shows the history of our user charges. So right now, we're at $15.85. We're proposing to go up 16% to $18.38. But on the minimum charge, now we're at $133. We're only going to go to $139, which is only a 5% increase. The reason for that is the minimum charge right now covers 800,000 cubic feet of water. So if you're a single homeowner and you're not using 800, say you're using 500, you still get paid, charged at 133, right? So we figured most of the people getting minimum are probably elderly or people, empty nesters, people like that. So we figured cut them a break a little bit, don't go up as much on them. The next slide is the summary. So again, we have increasing costs, decreasing betterment revenues. We're not going to use our retained earnings to balance the budget, and all that results in a user rate increase.
Bill, how many people are on the sewer system in this town?
But we had just over 1,000.
Yeah, a little bit over 1,000. Yeah.
How many?
Over 1,000.
Over 1,000 homes?
Yeah. well, 1,000 users. So like Arrive, there's hundreds of apartments there, right? So if you count all those as one, as individuals, it puts us over 1,000. If you count it as one, we're 900 and something. Right?
On the infiltration, what's your build to the users versus build from Leominster Fitchburg? Like, what's the percent of infiltration?
That's very hard to tell, right? Because flow is different every day, right?
Yeah, but like, I mean, you have a certain amount that you can bill based on what the users are using, right? And then you get billed so much from Fitchburg and Leominster. Have you ever ratioed that to see what?
We don't, and it wouldn't be, a one-to-one ratio, because some people are on wells, right? So they get the minimum charge. They might be using way more than 800, right? We don't know. So it's hard to nail down that I&I number.
Okay.
The way to kind of do it would be do an engineering study, right? You go out at night when nobody's, taking a shower and flushing the toilet, and you can do some flow readings at night. That kind of gives you an idea, but again, it's not 100%. We are trying to manage it, so we did get some ARPA money. We have a contract now that's addressing some manholes that have been identified as having the highest I&I rates.
And how do you identify those?
That through engineering studies. So there was a couple studies done over the years, and, we targeted the worst manholes per the studies. Yeah, you'll never get zero I&I, it's just impossible.
Yeah, I was just curious if is it like a 2% thing, or is it a 10% thing? I think you could like just look at the bills and kind of estimate off of, and, kind of get a rough idea of what that actually is.
Yeah,
Just curious to what it is, you know what I mean? It's, if it's a 50% thing, then we have a serious problem, right?
right.
If it's 2, 3, 4%, that's really nothing that you can do
Right.
much with.
Yeah, we'll have to take a closer look at that. I know we have our flow meters, and we can see the data every day, right? So if you look at that chart and compare it to the weather, usually the day after or during the storm or after the storm, rainstorm, you can see a spike.
Yeah.
So water's getting in. Yeah.
Okay.
Did you have a flow meter for Leominster and a flow meter for Fitchburg?
We do. Yep. And that's what they charge us
Yeah.
based off of.
So what percentage is going to Leominster and what percentage is going to Fitchburg?
Leominster's 88%, Fitchburg's 12%.
So that-
And which is a lower cost facilitator?
I believe it's Leominster. I have that here somewhere. Yeah, it's Leominster. They're almost half of what Fitchburg charges. So we're sending it to the right place.
Yeah, 88%, right?
Fitchburg just did a big capital improvement, though, didn't they? Or one of them did?
They've both done some capital improvement, yeah, and we have to pay for part of that, right?
Yeah.
That's part of our debt service to them, yeah.
Do you still have the issues with the clay pipes in the Whalum district?
Theoretically, yes, but how do you prove it? That's the hard part, right?
Any other questions? Only one that I thought of. How do you account for health insurance in your budget?
That's, yeah, let's see. Oops, I lost it. Let me find the slide with, expenses for salaries. Does it have it there?
I'm the only one on it.
Right. I'm trying to think. We do account for it. Which line item does go into? It's got a funny name. It's the line item grant indirect cost. I don't know why it's called that, but that's where we pick up the health insurance cost.
Okay,
And then we have to pay the accounting treasurer collector's office, because they collect our money for us, right? So we pay them a portion and it includes their fringe benefits, and that's picked up in that line item.
so your requested budget is lower than your FY '26 budget.
So,
However, both are higher than your FY,
FY20, oops, where's the first
No.
slide? No, we're about 100,000 more than last year. If you go,
wait, which,
so like the third or fourth slide.
wait, what is it called again? What slide is it on? Sorry, maybe I got,
So FY '27, whoops, where am I? It's one of the early slides. Where'd it go? Oh, I lost it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Well, I'm looking at like the 10th slide, total expenses.
yeah,
In FY '27, we're at 1.98 million. '26, we're at 1.82 million. '25, we actually spent more, 2.14 million.
what's the name of the line again?
It's slide 10, it's the grand total of expenses. I think it's slide 10.
Yeah, I got you, but under expenses, it starts with Leominster Fitchburg usage and electricity charges. Which one of those
Oh, for the grant?
has health insurance?
Oh, the one near the bottom, grant indirect cost.
Right, so grant indirect costs, your requested budget is 106,353.
Yeah,
FY '25 actuals were 104, and FY '26 budget was 122K. And health
Yeah.
insurance is going up 8%.
yeah, how did we calculate last year? Off the top of my head, I can't answer you, but I will,
Okay.
I will get.
Just
back
check
to
it,
you.
I guess.
Yeah,
Especially where it's an enterprise fund, you need to, I just wanted to make sure that it was covered.
yeah.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right, I think, Brian, you're up next. I may have to find your presentation.
Did we get that? Was that emailed to us? Or is it in the SharePoint?
So it's in department presentations, general government, and then land use. And I think we may have gotten it on March 3rd, but we pushed the, sure. All right. Welcome, Brian.
Good evening, Brian Gingras, Building Commissioner, Town of Lunenburg. I've got on my left, Harlan Jamie, Conservation Agent. On my right, Stephen Wallace, Director of Planning and Economic Development. I'm going to do the presentation, but for questions, we'll each answer for our own departments. We all know best now what's going on in each. So land use comprised of 3 different departments: conservation, building, and planning and economic development. That's a little different than how it was presented last year. We had a land use director overseeing everything. Conservation, review and enforce your compliance with Mass Wetlands Protection Act. Local wetlands bylaws, they issue permits for work near wetlands, waterways, floodplains, conduct site inspections, monitor ongoing projects for compliance, provide guidance for wetlands management, erosion controls, and habitat protection, advise the public on environmental regulations and best practices. Building department, we're the ones that issue all the permits. We're enforcing the state building code, conducting inspections, reviewing construction plans, maintaining records, providing guidance to homeowners, contractors, and developers on permit requirements. We also advise the planning board on some matters regarding stormwater and zoning regarding their A&Rs and other applications that come in. Planning and development, that's new. Over last year was land use. Their focus is moving towards more economic development. So prepare, update, implement master plans, zoning bylaws, and subdivision regulations, review and process applications, special permits, site plan approvals, stormwater permits, subdivision of land, coordinate long-term economic development initiatives and business attraction retention, conducting studies for housing, land use, managing grants. Stephen also staffs Planning Board and Economic Development Committee, and they facilitate public engagement and community workshops. Moving to your organizational chart, this is where things have changed from a year ago. So town manager is overseeing 3 distinct department heads. Each of us, in some fashion, also have a board or commission interacting. You've got the conservation agent with Conservation Commission, administrative assistant, which we'll discuss later, is changing a bit. Myself, building commissioner with an administrative assistant, and then I have assistant plumbing, electrical, plumbing, gas inspectors and their assistants as well under me. Director of Planning and Economic Development has an administrative assistant, also gets to answer to the planning board, and zoning board of appeals is kind of shoved in here as well with us. I'm going to jump to the next slide. So we got service trends by fiscal year. I have specifically on here building activity. I didn't pull in the planning activity or conservation activity, and though I have numbers for them, because what those 2 departments do essentially drives your building permit issuances in a lot of ways. So as their activity ebbs and flows, building department tends to as well. As we're looking through building permit activity, you're going to see a fairly steady year to year to year issuance within 20 or 30 permits. We're not jumping hundreds either way. We're not dropping 20% here and then jumping 10%. Pretty much everything has been steady. Building fees saw some concerning waves in FY25 with FY26 coming back up. When you look at these numbers, it looks drastic. Honestly, that's a difference of issuing permits for 5 or 6 houses. It's not a difference of hundreds of permits. It can be a difference of 3 or 4 permits that'll drop you 30 or 40,000 or increase. In the case of one project that may come this fiscal year, could increase the permit take by 200,000 on one permit alone. So kind of hard because the numbers stay so small. One little change tends to drop things dramatically when you're looking at a chart. So next slide is the FY27 budget request. This is where there's some changes starting to happen from what is on here now, but what we're looking for with this presentation is a budget of $447,963. So 1.77% increase over the prior fiscal year. Increases primarily are driven by your cost of living, step increases off of several staff levels. We do have, where are we? Sorry, just a minute. On your salaries clerical, it did drop substantially. Lisa Norman, having retired, dropped a lot off of that. She'd been here so long between longevity and her step. Those dropped. With that salaries clerical line item, we're currently working on looking at some consolidations. As of today, there is no more conservation administrative assistant effective July 1st as part of starting to make these changes. Going down through the expenses, the only expense line item that is any different in here, there's now a purchase of services that is funded at $2,000. That is your mapping for zoning changes and zoning proposals where we had no funding mechanism prior. That when Stephen is getting up before town meeting with 20 zoning amendments or something, and we need to start making, actually drafting maps and getting presentations together, that's what that line item is for. Otherwise, you're looking at level funded. We're not looking at massive increases anywhere, huge asks. We've been trying to chip away as best we could with the expenses anywhere that we could at this point. And I said we are actively discussing organizational changes, which will bring clerical line item down at least. I want to jump to funding sources. It's an interesting chart. I pulled this together. I was kind of curious how it was going to show. When you look at land use holistically with 3 departments all kind of mashed in there, you've got 16% of our funding ultimately is derived from the general fund. The rest of it, 75% of it made up from building permit fees alone. This was derived using the FY26, FY25, and FY26 projections to pull it together, so you're not down to the penny. It's giving you a general idea, though, of how much the town really puts in versus how much we get back.
What is the sheet metal line? Is that like recycling or something?
What's that? Sheet metal, that is ductwork. You have it's another specialty application that comes under the building department. I didn't lump it with the, sorry, really tiny on my paper, with the specialty permits. I can explain why specialties look so small. But that sheet metal is something the state came out with 15-ish years ago. It's a special license, and if you install any type of sheet metal roofing or ductwork, you're actually supposed to pull a sheet metal permit.
Okay.
It falls under the building line. Those specialty permits, that's your plumbing, gas, electrical, that is the town's share of the percentage. With electrical, we pay the inspector 82.5% of the permit fees, the rest is retained by the town. So when you add it all together, it was about 4% of the actual operating costs of the departments. And that's about it. I said, I kind of talked fast, and mostly I'm sure it's going to be questions.
All right. You have some beautiful buildings.
And I'm not an artist, I just directed it how I wanted it to look.
All right, any questions?
Have you seen a decrease in the number of, like, new construction permits for the town?
So this year, we have some contractors holding back a little bit. When I say holding back, I mean 5 to 10 new constructions a year, so we're not talking hundreds anyway. I have one property, he pulled the permit, now he's going to sell it, he's nervous about building. I have another one who's holding back until the mud's completely gone, and then he's going to walk in with a check. I looked earlier, we have about $18,000 in, I guess, building permit receivables, if you will. These are projects that are shovel-ready, but they'll walk in with a check the day they want to start digging, so they're just kind of holding back. Planning does have some interesting stuff coming, which may be a driver this fiscal year, maybe next. Kind of hard to gauge where that's going to go. But what I am seeing is more of a kind of a renovation remodeling economy again. And it's a wave. I mean, Lunenburg, it's such small numbers, it's hard to say, oh, we're going to jump by 500 new constructions or something. It really does stay fairly small. But I am seeing more of the renovation side. Interestingly, looking calendar year to calendar year, the numbers are consistent with this time last year, but we're not seeing any of the solar permits. We're seeing more renovation work. With solar credits dropping off at the start of the year, calendar year, you're not seeing the solar permits, which were the driver in the numbers, not necessarily the dollars. But those have dropped off, but our permit numbers haven't dropped. We did see an influx of weatherization work during the winter, but that's fairly typical. But we're getting renovation work again, and we're gonna see additions, which still, any given day, I'll have 3 or 4 people call asking for setbacks because they're working to design this or design that. There's some accessory dwelling units coming. We did permit a few last year. A lot of people are working through septic permits now or sewer connections as well, and trying to resolve the utility side before they permit those. So there is stuff out there.
One of the things that's holding back the building community is the cost of building supplies. And that's going to be an issue for the foreseeable future. But I did look at the number of building permits issued for new housing units over the past 5 years. And over the past 5 years, we've averaged 10 to 15 building permits for new homes. So it's not like we're being inundated with new home construction at the moment.
All right, any other questions? All right, great. Thank you so much, and nice to meet some new faces, too. All right. So next up, we'll go to trust funds. They have a moneyed article.
Chris, you have.
Yep. I did put this in our shared drive.
What's it under, Chris?
It's under trust funds, but it's up a level from the department.
Okay.
Where are the departments? Can you find that?
Sure.
Where are the departments?
All right, John, bring us through this.
All right.
You go to FY '27. Right in trust. So it's not in the departments, it's in FY '27.
Where is that?
Under budgets.
Budget
Did
material?
you find it?
Working on it.
On that side will be under FY '27, yeah?
It's in the FY '27
Yep.
budgets, then trust funds.
Okay.
All right, you ready, John?
Yeah, just.
Did you get it?
Yep.
So in that same folder, there's the warrant article itself. And then there's also many supporting documents that were emailed to us, but I also put in that folder.
All right. All right, everybody ready?
Yeah.
Sorry. I wasn't connected to the internet. My name is John Bowen. I'm here on behalf of the Board of Trust Fund Commissioners to present and explain a warrant article requesting the appropriation of $14,252.39 for the legal investigation of several long-neglected municipal trust funds. The request is narrow, it's specific, and directly tied to our fiduciary responsibilities under Massachusetts law. The purpose of the appropriation is to fund approximately 40 hours of professional legal investigation to determine donor intent, verify legal compliance, and establish whether certain trust funds can still be administered under their existing terms. Many trust funds have missing donor declarations, obsolete purposes such as references to poorhouses or reference beneficiary organizations that no longer exist. As trustees, we cannot lawfully distribute funds without knowing donor intent, nor may we modernize outdated restrictions without this investigation. So in this presentation, I'm going to go over a couple of things. The first thing is, can you go to slide 2? That's the legal framework. Are we there? I can't see.
Yeah, we're there.
Okay.
3 Mass General Law.
Yeah, it's not, I know. I have a hard time seeing distance with these. So, Mass General Laws, Chapter 206, Section 16, are our fiduciary accounting requirements. This is to maintain accurate accounting and ensure lawful administration of the trust. Then we have Mass General Laws, Chapter 203E, Section 805, which this is prudent trust administration, and this is to act prudently, carefully, and consistently with the donor's intent. Now, I sent you all a plethora of information. Some of it was informational to let you understand the direction of what we've been taking this commission's duties to, as well as the specifics for what the warrant article is. And I separated both with numbers for you to be able to follow along in those documents. And I understand that it's a lot of information, but there's a lot of work that went into this. The third point is Mass General Laws, Chapter 203E, Section 807. This is the delegation of trustee duties. This allows the Trust Commission to delegate specialized work, but only allowed to do it to qualified professionals. So we're in a predicament when it comes to us making a decision or somebody else making a decision based on these trusts, because the law does not allow us to make those decisions, because it wouldn't be prudent for us to be able to make those decisions on our own or to allow influence from other boards or statements from others, even the executive, in what this says or what that says. And I'll get into a little bit more of that later. Could we go to the next slide? Mm-hmm. So just so you know, these statutes, they make clear that that legal obligation, the legal investigation that needs to be done, these statutes clearly state that it's not an optional thing. It states that it's required, and I'll explain why it's required, and something that's been neglected for quite some time here in town. So the purpose of the appropriation is required for legal investigations in Cypre groundwork. For those of you that don't know what Cypre is, it's basically a format in probate court, which I'll go over in a little bit. It's a format in probate court to kind of make adjustments, not to necessarily the donor intent, but to modernize, or, maybe something is outdated in it, or it's not clear and needs to be clarified. And I'll go over the reasonings between, there are two different ways that this can happen. One is making a filing in probate court, and 2 is that can be filed through the Attorney General's Office of Public Charities. They have both come with specific parameters and specific identifiable requirements of when one has to be this way and when one has to be this way. And again, I'm going to go back and reiterate that the statute makes clear that I am not the one to tell you, okay, that this is how that works. That's required for a legal investigator to be able to tell you exactly what that is. That doesn't mean a lawyer. I want to make that clear. I spoke with Adam Costa, okay? The legal parameter here is an outside investigation team hired by the town attorney. This is nothing that can be done by the town attorney himself as far as the investigations are concerned. And we're bound by statute to have this done. And the town is bound by owning and receiving the management of these funds. And I'll go over some of that in a little bit as well. So, part of this is to correct missing, outdated, or incomplete donor declarations, to resolve obsolete purposes, like one fund says poorhouses. We have an inactive American Legion post in town. We have 2 funds that are both with the name American Legion. One, we have a piece of paper on of declaration, which needs to be repaired, and we have another one where we have no declaration. Ensure compliance with state trust law and donor intent, and I highlighted some of the laws for you. If we could go to the next slide. So these are a list of funds that we have. We have the Nathaniel Day Fund. This is called the Worthy Poor Fund. Its purpose is tied to poorhouses. Poorhouses are obsolete. It's not just tied to poorhouses alone. I sent you the declaration that was written by Nathaniel Day, or at least presented by his executor, where it outlined what the funds are to be used for. But again, I'm going to stress this again, pursuant to the statute, I cannot be the one that says, this is legally what this says for me to hand out this money. Okay, this is legally the process. I'm not allowed to do that. The select board's not allowed to do that. The town manager's not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to do that. Nobody's allowed to do that, not without the proper investigation. And that would fall under the duties of the trust fund commissioners, which under the trust fund commissioners' powers and duties, we need to be stewards and take care of certain trust funds and their declarations. And if there are questions, then they should not be handed out until those questions are resolved. And that's going to come through an investigation. And this should have been done long ago.
So you said town council can't do that?
No. Town council cannot do the investigation. Now, there are some functions that town council can do, like, on retainer and stuff like that. He can probably do what we call Cypre filings at the Attorney General level. He may even be able to do a filing in probate court for that. But if there's any kind of investigation, stuff like that, that has to be handed over to professional investigators. So I have done a lot of research. I went through a couple of boxes of record information that Mylene had in her office. I went through every single piece of paper. I got a lot of information. I've shared a lot of that information in my meetings before the public. And I've made a number of different inquiries. However, just because I'm able to do all that research, I even questioned, maybe grab some interns, bring some interns to do some work and so on and so forth, but these would not hold under statute. And the statute that I had read to you, which was 203E, Section 807, okay? It's the delegation of work. The delegation of work has to be given to qualified professionals. A trustee is not allowed to just manage a trust and say, oh, this is what I think it says. Oh, well, it says this, but it doesn't say that. Well, that's in there too. That is not for us to make that decision or determination, okay?
What makes it what certifies someone as a qualified investigator?
So a qualified investigator is somebody who's trained and skilled in investigating trust funds specifically for the effectuating of a Cypre filing.
But is there an official certification that they get for that?
So here's the thing, no, so it's a legal field, it's a specialized field. Okay, this is what these folks do there. I mean, I'll explain it a little further. Like forensic accountants or somebody who can do forensic investigations, somebody that's good at doing research at the state level for, historical archives, things like that, at the probate court for wills and trusts. This is a specialized investigation that gets done. It's kind of, it's more or less of an in-depth, detailed forensic investigation. Now, I'm not envisioning that these are forensic investigations that require a lot, and that's why the number is quite low. What I'm envisioning is that the investigations need to be conducted, and if they're conducted at $350 an hour, that basically comes up to about the 14,000 and some odd dollars of what we're asking for. But I'll explain to you how we came up with the 36 cents. So I explained it to the select board, and Ms. Town Manager, she was like, oh, you read my email wrong. I go, I know, but it actually fits the right number, what we're looking for, so it's okay. So it actually highlights a particular point, and I'll get into that in a little bit as we go through the document. I just want to make sure that you understand that this is a specialized thing. This isn't something that just you and I can do.
So you figured out it's a 40-hour thing of work?
I'm figuring out just from all the information that I've been able to find, and plus my ability to find information, and I don't know if you watch my meetings or not, but I find a lot of information.
So
and I'm one guy.
Okay, all this work is done. The town spends $14,000, we get a qualified person, they figure everything out. What happens next?
Well, that's where I sent you the FYI in your treatsy, I'm going to call it, in the plethora of information that I sent you with regard to our operations and our functions that we have developed over the last 9 months, the members of this board. Okay, we developed an application, we developed a process for approval of application. We've even submitted a bylaw request recently, okay, to be able to hand off the issuing of those applications sorry, not the issuing, but the approval of those applications through a process and a policy of which we put together over the last 9 months for the Trust Fund Commission. So with that, I sent you all that information to kind of just highlight to you. I said, this is not part of the presentation, but it is part of the solution to any question that you might have, like you just did, Tom, which is that we need to be able to be sure, okay, it is extremely clear as trustees, okay? This is just like somebody who has your irrevocable trust and you appoint them as trustee. You have a certain amount of things to say. Now, if you say this, but then you say that, inside the document, it's contradictory or it creates a burden that needs to be corrected. And the way it needs to be corrected is the language needs to change. In order to change the language, you have to get approval. But before you can go for some kind of approval like that, you must investigate and exhaust all the relevant information to make the presentation. The Attorney General is strict. Judges are strict when it comes to this. They specifically look at donors' intent, okay, for everything with this, okay? But when you're meting out money to different places, this is where and you say, oh, well, it doesn't have to do that, it has to do this. So if you watch my meeting tonight that we had, we discussed that. We discussed the fund, which is the American Legion Fund, Post-283 Fund, which is in 2013. So it says, eligibility, and this was a communication I had with the Select Board on Tuesday, eligibility is what is eligible, okay, to be a member of the Legion. So Selectman Laitman brought up to me that, well, because he Googled it, and he says, oh, it's anybody after 1941. I said, well, that's great. I could Google it too, but that's not a legal document. So I contacted the American Legion. I got a copy of their Constitution. I went over that in my meeting today. It's cumbersome. Okay, the document also says that it should be reviewed by the Veteran Service Officer. That puts a burden on her. There's a giant rabbit hole here in this document. This document takes you down a rabbit hole of misunderstanding. If eligibility is what you go for, and you read the eligibility requirements, just watch my meeting of their Constitution, okay? It's quite in detail. It basically says you have to file an application to become eligible so they can prove your eligibility. Then you can bring that to us, that you went to the American Legion first, even though we don't have a post here in town, to get your eligibility. And if they say you're eligible, then you bring that document back to us as a veteran, and we're going to help you. Do you know how well that's going to work for a man with post-traumatic stress disorder? Not well.
All right, let's get,
So we have the beneficiary organization no longer exists, post-283. The American Legion Poor Fund, it's inconsistent historic documentation. There's no documentation. Well, how do we hand that money out? We don't have a declaration. The Susan Howard funds, it's missing. Last time it was shown a record, I have Miss Padula, who was here from 1953 to 83 and was the executive secretary, had a ledger mentioning the Howard funds. And our investigation has shown that those funds, you're only supposed to use the interest. Where's the rest of the money? There's a problem, okay? The rest of the money is supposed to still be, this is the Susan Howard's Poor Fund. She also had money go to the library. I found that record. The gazebo fund, there's no donor declaration found. And if anybody lives in town knows the original gazebo's on the corner of Oak Ave and Main Street on the guy's property on the right, in the back. It's big and green, stands in the corner. But we have a gazebo fund, but we have no donor declaration. As trustees, I can't give you money without having a declaration. I can't say, oh, it says gazebo.
All right, I think we got, let's,
So that's the key.
Yep.
So the Nathaniel Day Fund is an income-only. Donor intent needs to be clear, and the purpose for it is outdated. It requires equitable deviation from modern equivalent for charitable purposes because it's not completely clear in its statement, and documentation only exists through the historical will that we have, but that's all it says. But that needs to be adjusted, like I said. That can't just say that and we just pick out of it what we want. The Post 283 fund, the post is dissolved. The purpose is impossible the way it's written. It may require probate cypre due to the fund's age because it's under 20 years. If it's over than 20 years, less than $75,000, we can utilize the Attorney General, but the Attorney General could refer things to probate court even so. The restrictions are tied strictly to post membership. There's some additional things in there. There is a statement that says, or Lunenburg veterans, but they still have to be eligible under the Legion Constitution, and that's the problem. It's a giant rabbit hole. There are two sections of their Constitution that would require eligibility, and one of them would force the people to go and try to become a member and prove to us that they tried to become a member. And then we leave it on Michelle Durkee, our Veterans Affairs Officer, to be able to answer to the question. And she has no business with trust documents. Attorney General, administrative pathway, most funds under $75,000 older than 20 years are eligible for AG review. The administrative equitable deviation or cypre is available. The exception to this would be Post 283 fund cannot use the AG pathway, which I just explained. So, the fiduciary and legal risks as a result of the town not taking care of this. The town can be liable if distributing the funds without verified donor intent. There are two disbursements, one in 2008 and another one in 2017 on these documents, and those were done not properly. The misapplication violates Mass General Laws, Chapter 206, Section 16. Those are accounting standards, okay? And any inaction taken or any action taken on these trust funds, and as trustees, we're not allowed to give them out until this stuff is done, until this work is done. And any inaction that is not done, okay, can trigger Attorney General intervention. If we feel that the town, you know, is not moving forward on this, you know, we have a fiduciary duty as trustees to notify all parties that would be concerned, and that would also be the Attorney General's Office of Public Charities. The other issue would be failing to correct outdated purposes. That violates Section 805 of Mass General Laws. So this is why we're trying to move on this, and this is why we're asking. Why the appropriation is required. Trust funds cannot pay for their own modifications. We can't use the money within it, and that's where the $14,000 came. That was the actual number, if you look, for the worthy poor on your sheet you sent you. Jen wrote it to me and I misinterpreted it as, that's a cost, and I wrote 14,000. I put it in there. And then when I did the numbers, it basically kind of came out to roughly about 40 hours worth of work, which is what my anticipated number was. So I just kind of left the number the same. So you'll
40
have
hours for all five funds? 40 hours covers all five funds?
Yeah, it covers the investigation for almost all five. I mean, that's the estimate that I'm giving. But again, this is going to be done on an hourly basis. There's no way to charge this, you know what I mean? You can't get a guy to say, oh, I'm going to bid a contract. It's not like that. It's an hourly basis type investigation because it's a forensic investigation. And that's the way it works. And it's done by lawyers. It's done by people who are trained in doing this kind of research. And how that pans out and how that works out, the town is the one that's responsible for the management, not the fund itself. This isn't your irrevocable or revocable trust that you have for your own house and your own family with your own appointed executor. Okay? I'll give you an example. My wife's family
I think we understand.
has a trust. They have a trust.
John, we understand.
Okay,
We have a
well,
lot of business in front of us. I think we understand that point.
I understand. Well, if the town doesn't do it, we have a fiduciary responsibility to the trust donors, not to the town and the community, to the donors. That's what we've been elected to do. We've been elected to get the money out to the town, to the people, because the donors requested it and demanded it. So what we're trying to do is avoid ourselves from being put in a position. And that's why we're requesting. In my closing, okay, these funds require modernization to remain lawful and usable. The appropriation protects the donor intent and compliance. It also prevents financial, legal, and fiduciary risk. I just want to just touch base real quick and let you know, okay, that outside of these issues, okay, the trustees, without a legal investigation, this is the risks, okay, of the failures. The trustees risk misapplication of restricted charitable assets. That can get us in trouble and we can be held personally responsible for issuing money without having something proper. The investment decisions may not align with the donor restrictions, meaning that we have to be careful about how we use the money. If they say only use 4%, we only use 4%. And like I said, we have that sidewalk fund. I have an excerpt from an article in 1931 that I got in a box. And it says, to use it for this, like this, okay? The Attorney General also may intervene upon their own for any mismanagement. And then the people who have been involved over the years will be investigated and looked at with regard to that. Now, in addition to that, okay, this evening, my board put a vote of no confidence in our board and in the select board to be able to execute and exercise properly the function that is necessary without the professional expertise. That puts us, okay, at a complete standstill from giving out $84,000 to Lunenburg residents, to Lunenburg veterans, to Lunenburg poor, to do sidewalk, things for the sidewalks within 1 mile of the town hall, okay, to do sidewalk repairs, to possibly maybe fix a gazebo, okay, and, you know, and to do those actions, okay? Our hands are being hamstrung, and we can't sit there and say, oh, well, we want the approval of the select board for this, because that's going to give us credibility. They're not the professional to give that credibility. And this is why we said tonight that there is no confidence that this can get done, okay, and the democratic process is failing the people in Lunenburg out of $85,000, $84,000, what we have there on the numbers. It's failing, and we can't fail the people no more. This fund has not properly operated in 60 years. And I made a mention of this before. A member of the select board said to me one time earlier when I was elected to this board, oh, that board only meets once a year to give a report. And that's been the problem. But I appreciate you for hearing that, but I'd like to take any questions. If you have any questions, it's pretty cut and dry and straightforward. We're bound by the law. We're restricted in the democratic process. We can't move forward without your approval of $14,000 to get the process started. The management does not come out of the fund. It can't come out of the individual fund. This is not, you know, your revocable trust. The town took it on. The town is responsible for managing it, not utilizing the proceeds of the funds to manage it, which is what the town has reiterated. And anybody will tell you that that's not true, not
All right,
according
John,
to the statute.
I think we got it. All right. Are there questions on it or comments?
I have one.
Sure.
What exactly are you looking for? Are you looking for routine compliance to be reviewed? Like what, how broad is the scope? Because in certain scopes, town attorney can, as long as they're representing the trust, your group. We can't, the town council can't, but in certain instances, if we're just looking for compliance, then you can request it.
Yeah, it's not compliance. It's literally having the trusts redone.
So you're
Okay?
rewriting trusts?
To modernize, yeah, because there's no post-238. There is no American Legion Poor Fund declaration. Can't give that money out, no declaration. The American Legion is no longer here in town, and the way the document is written, okay, puts a burden and a rabbit hole on everything by utilizing the rules of eligibility for the American Legion. You have the Worthy Poor Fund, which sits here and directs money to poorhouses. We don't have poorhouses,
So
okay?
John,
This
hold on
person
one
can
second.
rewrite?
Let me
Can they
just
rewrite?
intersect for a second. In our shared folder, this,
Yep.
of all those documents.
I read that, I read
So
that.
look at the 1901 Nathaniel Day Worthy Poor.
Yep.
Right? So it says, this should be used by terms in the improving the condition of the worthy poor people living out of the poor houses in each of the said towns of Shirley and Lunenburg.
Right, right.
So this money is to go to people living in the worthy poor townhouses. And we used to have them. We actually,
But can this person that you're hiring rewrite?
no, so what needs to happen now is, there is an intent on this to help the poor via some mechanism, but the mechanism to help them no longer exists. So the Cypre allows you to take the original intent and bring it into a modern standard. So I sent another document to folks today, just like kind of a real
breakdown.
quick, what
Yep.
Cypre is. So I would recommend that, like, folks kind of take the time to understand what Cypre is, what these five are, and what the problem is. So I will say, like, my opinion is there is a problem.
I agree.
Okay, so, and I think these five funds need to be used properly. I do think when the town accepted the fund, they accepted the responsibility associated with that town. And someone back in 1901 donated $1,000, which is the equivalent of over $35,000 today for this purpose. So the town is on the hook for dealing with this. Now, what I am concerned about is that we have a clear path to resolution and the funding associated with that clear path to resolution. And I do think that, like, I'd like to hear from our own attorney, our town council, as to the path of that. I'd like to know whether his firm has these professional investigators. I'd like to hear from a legal source on what the cost to fix these five funds would be. And, one of them is over that 20 years old, so you can, go to the Attorney General and seek for this whole issue with, like, the worthy poor is something that's very common, because there were a lot of grants that were given to the worthy poor back in the day. So it's not without precedent. I think there's actually groups that will help you work through this without a cost, because they understand the need for it and the original intent, and there's probably case law, et cetera, on it.
Right.
There's actually, I think, case law associated with the fact that the town is responsible for this and has a fiduciary requirement, as John said, for it. So I think there's still research required to get from where we are today and the problems that were identified by the Commission of Trust Funds, a value associated with that, and that one that can be worked through the town executive board and our attorneys, et cetera, to get to resolution on this. So what I'm saying is that I recognize the problem that you've put on the table. I think your estimate is, I don't have confidence in your estimate, only because, it's kind of your opinion based on your research versus an attorney. I also feel that we need to work a little bit better on that path to closure. So my recommendation would be to not put this forward at annual town meeting and push it to special town meeting and work to a better estimate and approach to closing the issue. So that's probably where I stand as of right now on this. I did spend some time today, talking to Jen, as well as to, researching, looking at these documents you sent, as well as listening to the select board meeting on the 3rd, where you presented on this, as well as asking some other folks around town some things. So That's kind of my recommendation on it, but before we leave, and maybe not everyone had the chance to look as much as I was able to do over the last couple of days, are there any other questions?
Has anybody asked for these funds recently? I mean, the last,
Nobody knows about them.
okay, so the issue with us not dispersing the funds, if nobody's asking for them, then that's not a issue today yet, because no one's asking, no one has been. So it's not a vital thing. If somebody was asking for it today, then I'd say, okay, we have to do some things to make sure whatever we do is right. But if nobody's asking for them, then we have some time, we can kind of figure out what's the best path. Because I guess the ultimate thing, from what you're saying, Chris, is that we figure out how to get all these 5 trusts set up so that they're set up so that the trust can manage it. Because right now, we don't have enough information or the purposes aren't valid anymore. So-
You understand the cost.
Right.
Right.
I think you said the last time they were tapped was 2008?
No, so 2017, the Worthy Poor was tapped, and that was sent to a landlord here in town. In 2008, they sent the money to the individual. Now, that's a no-no. You don't send money, a check to a person. And in 2008, that's fraud, as far as I'm concerned. It's just on its face. Do you know what I mean? And then before that, the last disbursements that I'm able to find is in 1977.
Now, that said, I mean, there is $89,000, a lot of which can be used for veterans and in the poor. So it's not to say that there's not a need. So I don't want to punt this indefinitely, but I do think we should put the trust fund in the town in a position where it is aligned properly to the current intended needs.
The town has an obligation to the beneficiaries to fund it. The town has an obligation by the law to fund it. As trustees, you put us in a very terrible predicament as trustees, okay, if I place a vote at my board to notify the Attorney General of a mismanagement of 60 years of funds, and one of them is possibly fraud.
I mean, I
have
think
a
we're agreeing
fiduciary
with
duty
you,
to
we're
do that.
agreeing.
Yeah, it's.
But we just want to make
I
sure
know,
that
I have a
everything's
fiduciary
aligned.
duty
We're-
to do that, though, and that's the thing, is you're not understanding, the law says.
I think we
If I see it,
John, we understand.
yeah, if I see it and I don't do something with it,
But in what
I'm
timeline?
responsible.
In what timeline? Is there like if you see it, you have 1 year, you have 90 days, you have 60 days?
This board has not been properly staffed in 50 years
Okay.
with elected officials. So the timeline is of an essence that it gets basically, something gets
But not
done
legally.
while there is a volunteered board here elected.
Okay, but not legally, we have some time to align with the town.
Oh, I'm obligated legally, most certainly, as a trustee. If I see it, I have to say it right away. That's the statute I just read.
Yeah, I mean,
And
I'm not a
I'm-
lawyer, but one of them says like disperse $400 a year.
Okay,
And that is something we accepted as a town, we're not doing. I think they are obligated to do things like
Yeah.
that. So,
Trying to avoid all that.
So-
Trying to like get money, get the investigation going, and at least say, look, the town's doing something.
so again, I think we understand the issue.
You know what I mean? Like, let's
Yeah.
do something before we get in trouble.
Yeah, so we still have a lot of business. I think we understand the issue. I think we understand the request. We understand how you arrived at $14,000 now.
Yeah, that was,
We'll,
sorry, Jen, thank you.
we'll deliberate on that, and make a recommendation. I think my initial recommendation is
Yeah.
that, my initial thought on this is that $14,000 is a little bit of a pulled out of my butt kind of number.
Well, it is, because it's an hourly, it's billed
Okay.
hourly. There's no way to gauge. There's no
So-
way to gauge a number, so we have to start somewhere, 40 hours, and then we make a determination from there. And then the town manager would be the one that's responsible for the issuing of that out of the general fund, you know what I mean? And with a plan, right, with a company that does it. It wouldn't come from our board saying, here's $15,000. This would come under the fiduciary responsibility of the executive assistant.
Okay, I think we got it. Any other final questions? No. All right, John, thank you for all
No,
the
I
research
appreciate
you
you
did on
guys.
this and the passion you put into it, and for briefing us tonight.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
Get the-
who's next, Jen? All right, I have a lot of documents open.
Me too.
I can drive.
You want to drive?
Let's see if screen sharing, oh, I'm not logged in as a town, so it should work. Okay. Good evening. So tonight, I'm going to start with presenting the remainder of general government. I do have some folks online, specifically the treasurer collector, Mylene Malari, and Linda Chaika, the assessor, although it says McQuaid on here. And we also have Karen Barrett, finance director, town accountant in the room. Before I start going through general government, just an update on where things are overall with the budget. With the full budget restoration numbers of the school of $28,456,277, the adjustments made to the revenue that were discussed at the tri-board, adjustments that have been made already to the preliminary budget, and additional ones that are going to be identified tonight. The total deficit right now is $3,123,989.03. Portioned out, that's about $1.24 million on the town and $1.9 million on the school.
Like Jerry Lewis at the mayor.
What's our typical annual intake for taxes?
Our property tax levy?
Yeah.
I'd have to go back to our prior presentation for the I think that you should review the revenue budget that was presented previously for that.
So the estimate on property tax is $36,332,000. In total revenues, $49,750,000.
Thank you.
Unless there's been a slight tweaking.
There'd be a tweak on the revenues from that one.
Yeah.
About 100, but not 75,000 on motor vehicle excise and 100,000
Okay.
on the
Yep.
investment income. Okay, so general government, this budget includes finance committee, select board, town manager, accountant, treasurer, collector, assessor, IT, which has presented previously, town clerk, APDC, land use, physicals, town report, reserve fund, salary reserve, and central purchasing, and will include one additional economic development line. The preliminary budget, as presented, was $3,205,051.24. The current budget, with the changes indicated as we go forward, is $3,225,721.25. So this budget carries land use also that you heard earlier. So starting with you folks, your budget is $1,575 to cover your advertising requirements, your membership in associations, and attendance at any annual conference or associations. So small decrease here. Select board. So, as you all know, we have a 5-member elected select board who appoint the town manager, and then the town manager appoints staff to support the functions of the office. So contained within the select board budget for staff are the executive assistant and the human resources director, currently titled the assistant town manager, HR director, as well as some minute clerks. Key services provided by the select board. The executive powers of the town are vested in the select board. The board serves as the chief policy-making agency of the town. They have licensing authority for many license types: liquor, common victualler, auto sales, special events, hawkers and peddlers. They're the appointing authority over many boards and committees, as well as some staff, accountant, constables, town council, ZBA, conservation, historical personnel, registrar of voters, election officers, COA, and other multiple member bodies. responsible for the coordination of town meeting through the preparation of the warrant specifically, and the annual town report. The human resources element of that department through Julie is responsible for recruitment, onboarding and offboarding, classification and compensation comparisons, job descriptions, union negotiations, PEC negotiations, performance management, personnel policies for the town manager and select board, currently procurement, the senior tax work-off program, creation of an employee engagement survey, oversee the management of employee benefits, and assist the town manager in any special projects. You have some data there on what our hiring volume looks like. So new hires since 2024, 73. A little more than 30 a year in 2024 and 2025. Separations since 2024 are 52. Number of positions advertised since 2024 is 59, and there have been 20 senior tax work-off employees since 2024. I do want to just take a minute to talk about the senior tax work-off program for those that are watching. We do have openings. We have 5 openings available. This is a reduction for those that are eligible to come in and assist the town with various types of work, whether that be filing, drafting documents, could be some manual things, and you get a direct reduction on your taxes.
The new hire numbers include seasonal hires?
They do.
Okay.
But there are, the majority of those are staff, like actual staff changes, obviously not all full-time.
Okay.
Okay, so the proposed operating budget for the select board is $201,895.33. This is an 11.99% increase. We're going to talk about it more in a moment, but the assistant town manager position that lives within the select board would be retitled Human Resources Director, with the assistant town manager position being added to the select board. The board committee clerk line in that salary are not minute clerks for folks that support the select board's office. Those are minute clerks that support other boards and committees across town. Contracted services. John Guilfoyle Public Relations contract has been pulled back entirely under the select board. We talked about that a little bit during the preliminary budget, but that had not initially been funded in last year, and to pay for it got spread out with public safety and the select board office, but now is back contained within one budget, as well as HayGov software, which assists with minutes. Legal ads, we are running short consistently in this budget, so there is an increase for legal ads. The actual spend is between $2,000 and $3,000 a year. I think when I looked earlier today, we were at about $1,800 already expended thus far for this year. Office supplies, in addition to supplies for the office, if there's a community event, we'll hit this line for those supplies. Example last year was the Touch a Truck event, so for some basic supplies there. Dues membership, we pay for the Ledger, North Central Chamber of Commerce, Neshoba Valley Chamber of Commerce, membership for the town and the Municipal Association, and the Human Resources Association, and State House News Services. Meetings covers town meeting supplies and attendance at MMA conferences for select board members, and the staff development line covers the annual merit awards and annual appreciation day. Are there any questions on the select board before I switch to town manager? Okay. Town manager budget. So town manager serves at the pleasure of the select board as the chief financial officer for all town agencies, directly responsible to the select board for the administration of all town affairs for which the office of town manager is given responsibility under the town charter. So joint appointment over the finance director, town accountant with the select board, over the assistant town manager, police chief, fire chief, DPW director, facilities director, building commissioner, director of planning and economic development, and then the finance director also has 2 departmental direct reports under her, the treasurer, collector, and assessor. So the proposed budget for the town manager is $442,353 and is a substantial increase of 44.88%. This budget has been revised from the preliminary budget to include funding for the assistant town manager position for a full year, which is an increase of $60,000 over what was presented at the preliminary budget presentation. I'm going to go over that in a little bit more detail in a moment. But first, expenditures. The contracted service line is funding for small contracts, especially around recruitment services, but wouldn't need to only be used for that line. It's a place that we can go if we need small consulting services. Our legal expenses are the general legal services of Mead, Tellerman, and Costa, as well as labor council services of Mark Terry, formerly of Myrick O'Connell, now of Stoneman, Chandler, and Miller. And I have not seen any proposal yet from our general counsel services, so I'm not sure if we're getting an increase, although we do have substantial legal activity ongoing that I think could possibly result in us getting potentially an increase if our hours are really driving up. And we have small decreases to the mileage, dues membership, and meetings and school lines of the town manager. The former town manager was a member of the ICMA, which is an international association. Membership is rather expensive. It's not an organization that I belong to, so we were able to adjust quite a bit in the dues column. Okay, so the assistant town manager position. I still have in here X. The current assistant town manager HR director position was created in, not X, in 2016. Splitting the combined position has been discussed informally for several years. The current assistant town manager performs mostly HR-related tasks, as well as some procurement. We have many HR-related initiatives that are ongoing, including implementing vacation accrual system, standing up a sick leave bank, implementing annual climate survey, and improvement of the overall employee experience. So as I said, at the preliminary budget, I had requested $60,000 to fund the position beginning January 1st, 2027. Recognizing the needs of the town, I've decided to restructure the current staffing in the office. And the difficult decision was made to restructure the staffing within my office so that I can fund this position on July 1st, at least in part. So specifically, the position of communications and IT director has been eliminated. This elimination of this position will be a service decrease as the level of our external communications will be diminished. I'm not saying they will stop, but I'm saying that they will be diminished. There will also be an operational impact to the departmental staff as it relates to the management of their website, web pages, IT, and graphic design needs. But so due to the reconfiguration, the net increase of the assistant town manager position for FY27 to the town of Lunenburg is $60,000, as opposed to $120,000. How do I see the role of assistant town manager functioning? Assist with the executive management responsibilities of the town, take over the procurement and contract administration off the current assistant town manager HR director so that she can focus solely on our employee-related initiatives, assist with project management, policy implementation, assist with capital planning and capital initiatives, assist with departmental initiatives, as well as departmental supervision. And it also provides a succession planning capacity, that there's somebody in the office who knows much of the role. All right. Any questions on the town manager's budget? Okay. Town accountant. So the select board appoints the town accountant, and the town manager appoints the finance director. They are one and the same person. They oversee treasurer collector's office, assessing, accounting, procurement per the town charter. Now, they oversee procurement, but they're not responsible for procurement. So I just want to be clear on that because I know I just talked about procurement. The finance director's office is the last stop to ensure that every element of procurement has achieved compliance, but the processing of bids are not handled by the accountant's office. So the key services are coordination of all financial services and activities of the town, maintaining all accounting records and other financial statements, payment of all financial obligations, receipt of all funds due to the town from any source, maintenance of all property valuation records and systems, rendering advice, assistance, and guidance to all town offices and agencies in any matter relating to financial or fiscal affairs, monitoring throughout the fiscal year of the expenditure of the funds of the town, offices, and agencies, and coordination of all financial transactions associated with the procurement of all goods, supplies, and materials by the town offices and agencies with the central procurement procedures under Massachusetts 30B. So this is from the charter, the duties of the overall Office of Financial Services. Specifically, the town accountant's portion alone represents $354,504.68. There is a $2,000 small reduction since the preliminary budget. So in addition to paying the town accountant's finance director's salary, which is contractual, there's two other salaries contained within this department, and those are of the assistant town accountant and the payroll and benefits coordinator. Not much to note here for their expenses other than the large increase in audit costs. So we had budgeted previously $40,000, and now you'll see that that's $65,000. I think you may recall that the auditing firm that the town once utilized had been absorbed under a series of consolidations within the industry, and CBIZ is the new firm, same players largely, but new firm with a larger cost. We have attempted to go out and see if the other main competitor for audits is able to take on the town of Lunenburg, and they do not have capacity and have refused. Any questions about the accountant's budget?
Should the auditor have caught the free cash issue we found ourselves in? Or why would they not have? Is it just a time?
Are you talking about the school? The decrease?
No. No, I guess I'm talking about like free cash was just certified.
Oh, okay,
the whole
so.
thing you've explained.
Yeah, so they chase each other. So what they are auditing, so what we are about to engage in is the audit of that closure that just occurred, the closure of FY '25. So the auditor is coming into audit once the books are closed for the financial year. We did not close the books for the financial year. There was no finding that we did not close the books. We knew we did not close the books.
But you gave an indication that it's been going on for more than a year.
No.
No, I just missed.
No, so the books should have been closed by each year by November 30th of each year, and that did not occur. So there was no, we knew it was not occurring. We knew why it was not occurring. So it's not something that needed to be found.
I thought you said there was something like monthly reconciliation.
So the monthly reconciliation that was not occurring was during FY '25. So they will find that when they audit FY '25. We actually have a call tomorrow to start the engagement now that the books have closed. And what I am anticipating is when they conclude that audit, they are going to give us probably findings and management recommendations telling us that we need to put in certain mechanisms operationally so that that does not occur again.
Okay, and then is there any, honest.
Sure? Okay.
I guess I'm just wondering if some of these findings would lead to potentially bond rating impacts, because it seems pretty significant, some of the things that.
I think that in talking to, and we can have that conversation again tomorrow with the auditor, in talking to the auditor pre-engagement when we knew we were going through some of these difficulties, they represented to us that the fact that we had brought back Karen Brochu, the fact that we engaged the services of Eric Kinshirf CPA during the troubled times, should indicate that the town's awareness, once the problem was realized, and taking immediate action to start to correct. Hopefully that will help not have such a negative management review. I think that they're gonna say things, though, like there needs to be an actual protocol that each and every month there's sign-offs for, that the prior month had been closed out and balanced, things of that nature.
Okay.
Good question. Okay, treasurer collector, and Mylene is on, so maybe you'll have a question for her. So the key services of the treasurer collector's office are to oversee the town's collection revenue, maintain town funds, invest funds in accordance with Mass General Law, oversee debt repayment schedule, the cash flow, provide information to taxpayers, collect and process receipts for town departments, real estate taxes, personal property taxes, motor vehicle excise taxes, and sewer usage, reconcile town's bank statements, process refund abatements and overpayments, process and record notice of takings and foreclosures, process municipal lien requests, prepare financial reports to the Department of Revenue, and also, I'm not going to go over everything, but works with the deputy collector, which is Kelly and Ryan, for collection of delinquent excise taxes. All right, so there's two budgets here. One is the treasurer's, one is the collector's. The treasurer collector, the department head, a portion of the salary lives in one budget, and the portion of the salary lives in the other budget. So Mylene, the treasurer collector, receives the treasurer's salary here in this budget and the collector's salary in the next budget. We have one assistant treasurer, and we did reduce $4,500 from the preliminary budget in the expense lines, but you'll see that it's a very small expense budget of $7,375. On the collector side, it's an overall $120,662.10 budget. Here, there's a little bit more of a reduction based on actuals. So we reduced $8,300 from this budget, specifically around contracted services. There was $10,000, $7,000 reduced there. We don't need to have that much. And that $10,000 line covers the contractual services of Kelly and Ryan, the deputy tax collector, as well as Unibank services that they provide for our continuing financial disclosure. Are there any questions for the treasurer collector?
No questions, but one of the things we had talked about at a prior meeting, and I don't know if it got to her, is there possibilities of opt-out for mailing of tax bills as well as direct withdrawals for payments of excise and
So
real estate?
that question did not get to the treasurer collector.
Okay.
So Mylene, if you know the answer, I'm going to rephrase the question for you. So if you know the answer, great. If not, if you can research the answer and respond to the finance committee. So the question is, we mail paper tax bills, and is there a possibility that folks can opt out of that mailing and basically get an emailed bill? That's question number one. And question number two is, can they just opt out of billing altogether and just get direct withdrawals, set up direct withdrawals from their banking?
Mylene, we don't hear you, although I see that you're talking.
Might need to unmute.
Maybe a room problem, too.
Oh. We can't hear Mylene. She's trying to answer a question. Okay, well, Mylene, if you don't know the answer to that question, or if you do, if you could either find it out and just circulate the response to the finance committee, I do think it would be a cost savings and convenience if allowable.
Yeah, and then, Libby, we can't hear in the room. Do you know if it's on theirs, or?
You should be able to hear the Zoom.
Can you hear the Zoom people?
What?
Can you hear Zoom people?
No, I'll
Oh.
whisper a little more, but you should be able to hear.
Can people get, like, email tax bills instead of paper? Can they opt out? And can they get,
Direct. Yeah, that's the question legally. And can they get a direct withdrawal from their bank account, like automatic payment set up? Do you want me to wait a minute or keep going?
You can just go, I guess.
Oh, Eileen's raising her hand.
Yeah, Mylene, we can't hear you. You can go ahead if we can hear you. Yeah, we still can't hear for some reason.
Is there anybody else on, is Linda on Zoom?
Linda's on Zoom.
Linda, can you try to talk?
You can see her talking.
Yeah, you can see her like microphone working, but there's no volume.
It's something in there then. I think it's Pat.
It happened at Triboard.
It did happen at Tri-Board.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't need an answer on that right away.
No.
anyways.
I
It
need
just-
to write a note that I need to email Joe Toll about the sound issue.
Oh,
We could also test it before each meeting, just to make sure. I mean, we shouldn't have to, but it's important that we have communication.
Well, that's why we put on all of our agendas right at the top, that if you really want to be here, comment.
Old school.
yeah, and just Mylene and Linda, again, we just can't hear in the room for some reason. So I know you both have your hand up, and you are trying to answer us, but unfortunately, we can't hear.
All right.
Tax office. Some of that can be done through Unipay, can it? Online? Bill
Didn't-
pay?
You can pay your bills online. Yeah, I think that was, I think the question is different, though. Can you opt out of receiving the paper? So once you receive the paper, you can go online and make the payment. I think the question is, can you opt out of receiving the paper all told, so that we can cut that expense of the mailing? All right. So, assessing budget. So the assessing department is responsible for accurately determining the value of all real and personal property located within the town of Lunenburg for the purpose of taxation. Assessors are obliged by the Department of Revenue to assess all property at the full and fair market value as of January 1st of the calendar year for the fiscal year that runs July 1st to June 30 of the following year. A little confusing, but that is the law. The updated property assessments are submitted to the Department of Revenue each fiscal year for their review and approval before the tax rate can be set by the town select board. And the assessors are responsible for the maintenance of all real and personal property data records. Within the office, they process abatements on real estate, personal property, and motor vehicle excise tax. Chapter land classifications, so that's land that's placed into a non-taxable status that's either open space, recreation, or forestry. Real estate tax exemptions, real estate tax deferrals, personal property, charitable organization forms, income and expense forms, requests for a butter list, and they perform cyclical inspections. So the assessor is a full-time employee serving under the finance director, and there's also a 3-member elected board of assessors responsible for many of the decision-making within the department, especially around processing of abatements and exemptions in executive, or just only exemptions in executive session, right? Administrative assistant, 32 hours a week, and then there's a part-time data collector at 19 hours a week. Here's some data on abatements. You can see starting back in 2023, there was a large amount at 427 abatements, but you'll see the more normalized numbers of 24, 25, and 26 at 42, 37, and 27 abatements respectively. Real estate exemptions, So there's a variety of exemptions, veterans exemptions, senior exemptions, and blind exemptions. In FY '26, they processed a total of 123 exemptions for a total of $83,000, and in FY '25, 128 for a total of $129,000. The senior means tested exemption was not approved for FY 2025, so we don't fully understand what the impact of that will be, as people are just starting to apply for that exemption. And the real estate exemption application deadline, for those watching, requiring an exemption, is April 1st of this year.
Just kidding.
So the total assessor's budget is $297,440.69. This is actually a small increase of 0.04%. We did make some adjustments in the expense lines. But primarily, we had talked previously about that special assistant to the assessor, a temporary position at $27,500 to come in and perform work required by the Department of Revenue that we're obliged to complete before the next full reevaluation. Because this is temporary in nature and based on our budgetary constraints, the finance director and I have discussed that we're going to move this out of the operational budget and use some one-time sources to fund this, to get it out of operations, where it might continue for another year or so, but it's not going to continue in the long term. And that's about that on assessing. All right, so the IT budget update, just to show the change from the last time there was a presentation. You'll see that the salary line has been reduced to 0. Town clerk. The town clerk's office serves as the central information point for local residents and citizens, responsible for all. I just want to stop on that. So many people say the town clerk is, I think all town clerks learn this at town clerk school, is the hub of government. So it truly is, though. A lot of it revolves around the town clerk's office. So they're responsible for all elections, census, and voter registration, as well as overseeing the polling place and the conduct of all elections and elected-related activity, and records all actions at town meeting. They administer the oath of office, maintain appointments and resignations for all town officials. They issue licenses and permits such as marriage licenses, business license renewals, dog licenses, and requests for vital records. 2 quick points on this. I think our dog licenses haven't been touched in a long time, and those dog license fees probably need a look because they're quite low. And I see Jean giving a thumbs up. And then the other point that I just want to raise is, if you have not heard, TC Passios building, I'm just going to kind of take a little segue here, because we're talking about election locations. So folks have been hearing about the wind down of TCP and potentially when that's happening. Well, with all of the melt that we have experienced, on Monday I received a call from the facilities director, and there is absolute water pouring into several of the classrooms of the decommissioned portion of the building. So thankfully it is in the decommissioned portion of the building, and thankfully the school department did relocate when they did, because it would have been directly in their office spaces. Long story short, there was a drain that was clogged on the roof, so there was a lot of standing water, but there is a large seam that is ripped in that roof, and so the water is quite impactful. All that to say, I don't know how much longer anybody is going to be able to occupy the TC Passios building now with this new condition. And so one of the activities for FY '27 will be that the elections need to be moved from the TCP building to the schools. Just a highlight of coming attractions.
Have we identified where the machinery can be stored to make that happen?
So there probably will need to be the purchase of a small trailer that will just hook up to a truck to keep some of the stuff that's non-temperature controlled in the trailer. The technical devices and the things that need to remain temperature controlled will actually come into this room, likely, and be stored here.
In here?
Yeah, they're not big. So those big bins are empty, and then there's a piece, there's like a device that locks into them. So most of the large items can be stored in a trailer.
I'm assuming it needs some type of security control.
The secured part are the devices that come into this building. The rest is just an empty black plastic bin.
Okay, and we have the proper means to secure it here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, so the organizational structure, we have an elected town clerk, under which a full-time assistant town clerk serves, per diem election workers, and part-time registration and census workers. There's a couple different budgets that we'll go over. So the town clerk's total budget is $147,956.05. You will not see many changes of any significance within this budget. The elections budget, however, of $21,575 does have an increase of 94.37%. That's because 2026 is an election year, with the primary on September 1st and the general election on November 3rd. So you'll see this is common. We're not going to budget at this high level every year when there's not an election, so you'll see this account or this line ramp up when there's an election year and then ramp down when there's not.
Do you know if the SAVE Act were to be approved, if there'd be, I would assume there'd be ramifications on the clerk's office?
Yes, and I don't know what those would be, but we can ask Kathy.
Okay. Linda, can you try to talk?
Can you hear me?
A little bit.
Can you hear me?
Kind of, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think it's in there. It's not here.
It's soft.
Let me turn up my volume.
It's in there.
But now, better?
Yeah, I don't think it's, well,
Yeah, I don't think it's in here.
okay.
I'll try to talk as loud as I can.
Okay, in a pinch, I think we can hear you, but I think we
Okay.
may just have some PAC technical issues.
Okay.
They probably want more money. Thank you.
Oh, I see a typo on the top of this page, but it's a $500 increase, not a $500 total budget. So the next budget is registration and census for a $21,450 total budget with a $500 increase, 2.39% increase. Additional funding sources for the town clerk. So there are uniform polling hours, provides coverage for 3 hours of extended polling for certain elections. The elections covered in 2027 will be the state primary and the November general election. Uniform polling hours is a state mandate, so this is reimbursement to comply with that mandate. And then, as well as early voting and vote by mail, and in-person early voting is required for most state elections as well. So we do receive reimbursements on those.
Is that totally covered?
I believe that they are totally covered. Do you know? Okay, we'll check. I believe that they are totally covered.
Okay.
Okay, APDC has a small budget of $500, which has been used in the past for advertising. Physicals, This is an increase of $2,500 for a total budget of $6,000. We had spoken in the public safety budgets about physicals in those departments also being under budgeted. So these are the physicals for non-public safety employees. So anybody that requires a pre-employment physical, not of public safety. But we were running short in both. We are going to look and see if we can find another vendor, though, to see if there's a more cost-conscious option to send people for this pre-employment work. Right now, we're using Haywood. Okay, new line for Economic Development Committee, $3,100. This is to support their annual town official meet and greet, which invites the town staff, elected board members, and volunteers, as well as local organizations in a casual setting to form and facilitate connections and relationships. So there is a article on the town meeting warrant to create a revolving fund as well for the Economic Development Committee. Their goal is that they would like to solicit sponsorships and collect donations in order to put on events such as this. But in the case that they are not able to collect such donations and sponsorships, they want to fall back so that they can put on this event annually. And it is a request that I support, which is why it is here. The town report. So this is a line that was greatly increased by 128.57% because it was not properly budgeted. So covered under this line are the annual town report, estimating 200 copies, the May town meeting booklet to print and mail at $7,500, and the special town meeting warrant to print and mail, which is typically a little smaller, which is why it costs a little less, $6,500. Most of the cost of those is in the booklet, is in the printing, and is not necessarily in the mailing. It's the printing costs. All right, Finance Committee Reserve Fund. I'm going to talk a little bit, just a food for thought. I'd like to hear the Finance Committee's reactions to some things about the Finance Committee Reserve Fund. So right now I have it level funded at $185,000. So as you're aware, but the public may not be, under state statute, the town can establish a reserve fund such as this to provide for extraordinary or unforeseen circumstances, so unexpended things that come up, and they require a vote to transfer money from this fund into a departmental line requires a majority vote of this body. According to the Division of Local Services, quote, during difficult economic period, a higher reserve can meet the expectations of more frequent transfer requests from departments that struggle with lean budgets. During periods of revenue growth when departments are giving more spending latitude, the likelihood of fewer requests justifies a lower reserve balance. So if we look back in prior years, FY25, $158,149 was transferred. In '24, $239,573 was transferred, and in '22 is $20,000 was transferred. Now, earlier in my presentation, you heard me talk about going through specifically the treasurer collector's department, the accounting department, and shaving off $1,000 here, $2,000 here, $10,000 there. As we continue to do that, I think that I'd like to consider raising this line somewhat so that we do have some cushion and buffer should we have gone far too close to the margin in reducing the budget. So that's just food for. Any initial reactions to that thought?
No, I mean, I think, I've said this before, I forget if you were town manager at the time, or Carter or Heather, but to me, this is like just a program management technique of like management reserve, unknown unknowns that pop up. Otherwise, you start to get into this very conservative budgeting. And, you know, with the extras in the conservative budgeting, maybe you say, well, I'm going to spend it because I have it. So I think this is a good fiscal practice. I would encourage, you know, challenge budgets even to be given to folks versus what they asked for. And then if there is, you know, unknowns, come before the finance committee and, you know, and ask for the money. And I mean, so far, I don't know that in my tenure, you know, there's been 4 or 5 of these that have come forward. We've always given it. And I just think it leads to maybe better project management type decisions, which I kind of view this as very similar.
Right, and that same effort that we went through of those, I'll call it death by 1,000 paper cuts, if you will, but just those little surgical scalpels, we haven't done that everywhere. I mean, we've done it initially, but this is the second pass through, we're tightening it through. So I anticipate that you're gonna see similar reductions in other budgets as well, like that you've already had presented. So we are getting closer to the margins. So I think that if the Finance Committee would be willing to entertain unforeseen things, it might be a way that we can reduce the overall budgetary deficit.
Even like the prior discussion from trust funds, that could be a reserve request, if there
Sure.
was a need for that. I'm like I said, I'm an advocate for increasing it.
Okay, the next reserve account is the salary reserve account. We've talked about this a couple times in the context of people's wages, but I think that it does still have some folks a little confused, so just apologies if you feel that this is redundant. But so first of all, the salary reserve has not been adjusted for FY27. I do not have enough information from the ongoing collective bargaining negotiations in order to do so at this point. So what will the salary reserve cover? Funding for COLAs for the employees under the salary administrative plan. Those are all your non-union employees. First year of collective bargaining agreements and any other potential salary adjustments. So after town meeting, either approves the article for the increased COLA for the SAP or votes the first year of the contract article. After town meeting, the funds are then transferred from that salary reserve into the departmental lines. Anticipated salary reserve for FY27. Anticipated COLA of 3% for the SAP employees. And as you have heard throughout numerous presentations, there are active collective bargaining negotiations with the DPW, clerical, and firefighters. The DPW contract did expire in June 30, 2024. Before I go on, are there any questions about the salary reserve?
Just to verify though, Bill put into his, for his budget, he put in 3 plus 3 plus 3%. So like the anticipated is built into the budget and the reserve is,
In the preliminary budget that you have for me,
yeah,
it has their current wages.
okay,
So they're today's wages
okay.
with no increase. There are some estimates in Bill's budget around other contractual obligations that he's estimating. But any potential increase for any unions will be in the salary reserve and have been removed from the preliminary budget.
Okay. But, and then if you do agree with the unions prior to the town meeting, then you'll go in with,
It will still be in the salary reserve.
okay,
Because if
So
town meeting
firefighters-
doesn't vote the first year of the contract, if town meeting, so there's a warrant article for each union negotiation. If, we don't know what town meeting will do. We can make some assumptions around what town meeting would do, but we don't know what town meeting would do. So that money lives in the salary reserve until town meeting takes that action.
okay.
But we can, if we know what that amount is, though, we can specifically call out X dollars of the salary reserve will be transferred. That's typically done within the motion for that article.
Okay.
Is that enough to cover retroactive pay?
I have not adjusted the salary reserve for FY27. I do not have enough information from any of those 3 bargaining units in order to make that adjustment. So this is last year's number. It has not been adjusted.
Are the other ones in there, have they, like, 2024 is a long time ago. That could
3
be
years.
quite a big, payback, but what about the other two? Are they more currently
Yep,
contracted?
so just a little bit, I think that maybe there might be a little confusion of why DPW is so long.
Happens.
So they were in a different bargaining unit through June 30th, 2024. They decided to leave that bargaining unit, and so there was a period that they were not represented, and they did not bargain with the town during that period. They are now represented by the Teamsters Local 170. And their representation, so it's not all the way back until the beginning of the fiscal year. They actually obtained representation in, I believe it was October of last year. So we have to negotiate around the retro and what will be covered. But that's why they've been out of a contract for so long. So you can't, by law, you can't leave one union affiliation and go immediately into another one. And you have to go through a process for the state to get involved and to certify the commencement of the standing up of a new union.
The others are current contract years.
So the other two contracts both expire June 30th.
Who pays for all that? In that case, does the Teamsters, pay for that? Any fees associated with negotiating with the state, or?
It's just,
Process?
it's a function of a state agency. So that's just an administrative function where they submit paperwork and information to the state asks the town for paperwork and information, we get back to them, and then they give a green light.
Okay.
But the union has, the union members have representation of a business agent that is paid for through their dues to help them negotiate with the town. So the town is represented in those negotiations with the Labor Council, and then they have a business agent.
Yeah, I just meant in that interim
Yeah.
crossover. Okay.
The Teamsters do assist them with that paperwork, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so central purchasing, level funded at $91,500. Office equipment maintenance, managed print services, that's copier contracts largely, and postage. As a reminder, in FY '26, all postage was consolidated across town departments into one single central purchasing line. This has seemed to work well. So with folks not having little bits of remainder money and it's all just in one spot. We do not have capacity in this upcoming fiscal year right now to make the change. However, I would like to start doing more of this type of consolidation for certain supplies within a central purchasing line, and have that centrally managed so that these are the supplies that you get from the town of. And I think it will just lend to similar cost savings where there's not all these little drips and drabs of office supply money.
Did schools come over into this too, or are they separate?
No.
Okay.
Who manages that?
I didn't hear the question.
Who manages all the office supplies?
Various folks in my office. So Kara McCarthy, the IT and Communications Director, was doing the managed print services. So all of it will fall now onto my executive assistant. But like office equipment, if somebody needs a desk, or a new chair or whatever, they'll ask for, not a chair, the chair they're taking out of their office, by desk. It's really desks, cabinets, things like that. They'll ask for permission to purchase one, and then based on the request and the available funds, that's processed through our office. Okay, Veterans Administration. So the Veteran Services Office, that is the conclusion of general government. So the rest of what we are going to talk about is not contained within that general government category, okay? So Veterans Administration, key services offered, by the Veteran Services Officer, outreach to veterans to educate them on benefits and services, referrals to programs, but primarily applications and processing and legal requirements of the Chapter 115 benefits program. So Chapter 115 is a Massachusetts state program that veterans can cover some of their daily living expenses, medical costs, rent assistance, as well as some other costs. So the total budget for the veterans agent is $90,750. The veterans agent does receive a stipend. The large amount of this budget is the $77,000 for veteran benefits. So right now, we are serving 7 folks under this program. I looked at actuals today, and we are running a little hot. So I did see something that appears to be one-time in nature in the account. If that is not the case, I'll have to come back and make an adjustment here. Otherwise, I think it will be fine at $77,000.
Don't we get reimbursement?
We do. It's trailing reimbursements.
Meaning?
So they come after the fiscal years. They're trailing, so they come into the revenue side the year after.
So 25 and 24, we were way under budget.
And that's why I reduced the budget last year.
Do you think there's folks that just don't know of these services that?
There's a lot of education to veterans around the Chapter 115 program. I think it's more of an eligibility. A lot of folks aren't eligible.
Okay.
Okay, band concerts, level funded at $6,000. This is payments to performers. I do want to just state that at the tri-board, when we had originally discussed this, an issue came up around how that's being paid. We're going to make sure we're compliant with payments going forward, so that they're either going to be employees that are paid under and that we're taxing them, or we need to do something different with the band. Historic level funded at $1,000. And lastly, but certainly not leastly, is the intergovernmental assessments at $2,635,339.93. This is an increase of $238,289.95, or 9.94. And you see that all but $111.95 of that is from Worcester County Retirement and is non-discretionary. All right, any questions on that one? All right, I'm going to flip over to...
That seems like that could start to become unmanageable.
It is going to be. Yeah, there's that 10% every year is going to
Yeah, I mean, it's up 35%.
keep you
Over 3 years.
Oh.
Sorry, can we just do one more time?
I don't know if there's anyone left,
Yeah, I don't think we need to, unless it's public
unless
comment.
none wants to talk.
All right. Okay. So,
Could probably go off mute.
okay, sure. All right, so general government unclassified budget. This is our insurances, largely, $4,500,424.59. We can go through each of these lines in coming slides. So the budget includes liability insurance, workers' compensation, group health insurance, group life insurance, unemployment expenses, Medicare town share. Changes from the preliminary budget, we were at $4,312,004.12. Now we're at $4,500,424.59. That is due to my error, which we will go over in a moment. So liability insurance, I have reduced this slightly from the preliminary budget. liability insurance at $230,000. Our liability insurance covers our property and casualty. We pay roughly $160,000 for property casualty. Former town manager Heather Lemieux negotiated a rate guarantee, thankfully. So we are guaranteed through FY27, but we have no rate guarantee through FY28. We have $160 million of contents with our, in buildings, and contents of those buildings and coverage. Sorry, I said that wrong. $160 million in coverage for our buildings and contents. Covers equipment breakdown, crime, general liability, automobiles, law enforcement, public officials, and school board. We also have a policy for $60,000 to cover our injured on duty. It's for police and fire. Employee bond premiums. ClearGov in the past had been paid from this line. It was not initially budgeted in FY26, and as you know, has been eliminated for FY27. We have a $5,000 training line here to cover risk management type trainings across the organization, whether that be procurement training, munis trainings, what have you. We have a smaller cushion for policy changes, and so this budget with that reduction is a little less conservative. Workers' compensation, I reduced this slightly from $145,000 to $135,000 based on conversations with our rep. We also have $22,000 in credits, so we are able to apply those credits here as well. So conservatively, $135,000. Group health insurance. So group health insurance represents the majority of this budget. Total increase of $193,440.27. The budget line covers town active employees. Throughout this process, I've been budgeting and talking about these costs based on our enrollments of November of 2025. We're not changing that much that I've been changing those figures that I've been budgeting off of. I've done that just so that there is consistency and transparency as we talk about the changing health insurance budgets over time. It's based off the same enrollment numbers. So there are 55 town active employees that are covered. We have $14,000 budgeted for the opt-out plan, currently budgeted at 5 town, 5 school employees. If more folks opt out, that'll only benefit, so because it'll be a higher cost coming from another line. I've budgeted open positions and contingency at 6 Blue Care Elect and 6 Blue Care Individual. This is the PPO plan, the high-cost plan, because remaining funds from this budget can be used to balance out the snow and ice budget, snow and ice deficit before hitting other available funds. So this year, we'll have a couple $100,000 here that we can use to balance out that snow and ice budget so that we don't necessarily have to go all the way to free cash at town meeting. We also use an insurance advisor services, which is that insurance cost control. Retiree health insurance. There are 67 town retirees. We estimated the insurance premium based 16% Medicare Blue for seniors, 19% for MedX. Those rates don't adjust until January, so we don't know what those actuals will be. And then there is a Medicare supplement. All retirees receive $96 per month. They receive it 2 times a year as a Medicare supplement. So school retirees, there's 203 retirees there. And then PEC expenses. So I did not accurately count those Medicare supplements when I initially budgeted this, which is why there was an adjustment from the preliminary budget. Life insurance, the town of Lunenburg offers employees the opportunity to purchase $5,000 of coverage and pay 75% of the premium. So the town is paying $5.96, and the employee pays $1.99. Unemployment, level budgeted at 10,000. Depending on what this budget shakes out to be like, and if we are anticipating layoffs, we may have to address this unemployment line. And then Medicare. So this is really Medicare taxes required by law, 1.45% payroll deduction. This budget line will be revisited once all salaries are finalized. So just an update on PEC negotiations. The town and its employees negotiate health insurance through the Public Employee Committee. The PEC is comprised of a representative of each bargaining unit, town and school, and a retiree. The PEC and the town are in active negotiations regarding the agreement for FY27 and beyond. If there are changes to the current benefit structure, those changes will need to be finalized no later than March 31st. And changes to the agreement will impact the town and school active and retiree plans. So that's really the young retirees, we'll call them. So the retirees that are on town active plans is who it would impact. Anybody that's not Medicare eligible. So we do have some retirees on active plans. So practically speaking, next Tuesday, the select board has a posted meeting that includes an executive session around the PEC. I understand the PEC will be convening their memberships to vote the following week, and so I expect that the details of this agreement will be able to be shared publicly quite soon. But it should result in a cost savings to the town if the membership agrees. Or let me say this, it will result in a cost savings if the members agree. And that is it on that presentation.
Any questions?
Okay. I don't know if you want to go over warrant articles. I know it's on the agenda. We have a draft, or we can read them and save it for next week. That's your pleasure, Mr. Chairman.
What do we have next week?
So let's talk about next week. Next week,
Oh, right.
town manager had a proposal. Next week is supposed to be the public hearing. But town manager had a proposal that we push public hearing a week. It's been posted, so we'd have to open it and then to a date certain, which would be the next week. And that we actually do tri-board next week during our time. So we had talked at the tri-board about when the next meeting would be. That would allow us to have those final-ish discussions with tri-board. Maybe give us a little bit of time to digest the warrants. And then we would have the public hearing on the 2 weeks from today, 26th.
And if for whatever reason you weren't ready based on the discussions that come out of the tri-board and next steps, if there's still not that final number, so to speak, public hearing, you can continue to open from date certain to date certain to date certain.
So I think that would allow the public hearing to have probably better information. When do we need to have something if we want to get it in the book?
The book will be mailed to the printer on April 8th. So anytime before April 8th, April 7th.
Okay, so that would allow us to have a public hearing, talk about what we want to have in the book, and then start to deliberate on, I guess at that point, we would also want to take as many votes as we can at that meeting. And then my expectation, here's what I'm thinking on the book, is that we put together somewhat of a benign statement on the Finance Committee report, and then have an update more towards town meeting with more deliberations and more analysis and, kind of thought going into it. Because I think it's going to be very challenging for us to get anything other than this is what's going on this year. And I think we will know at that point what is going on this year. And then, have a QR code or another mechanism by which to get out a more detailed committee report if we want. 1 year since I've been on the board, we did not have anything in the book because we just ran out of time to get it in there, so. All right, so is everyone in agreement that we could do the tri-board next Thursday in lieu of a meeting and then have public hearing the week after? And take our first stab at going through the warrant and doing votes? And we would have one more meeting still to finalize votes.
Yeah, and while I pull up the calendar, just recognizing that this hasn't been discussed with the school committee or select board yet, in terms of scheduling, because it really was just that your meeting on the 19th was the more logical day to have the meeting next week. So if you were not willing to move, there would be no point to have that discussion. So I will do that tomorrow.
Okay.
So
if that is not the decision of the tri-board, then we will continue with the public hearing. And I think that just gives us, one less meeting that we have to fit into our schedules. Okay, so you posted the warrant articles or you emailed them to me?
you have them, I believe, in your SharePoint.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, just so everyone's clear, those are all, the select board has taken no votes on anything that will be included in the warrant. So this is not a draft of the warrant, and there's a big disclaimer on the top of it. This is just a running list of things that have been submitted. Again, as always, a lot of times the details are carried in the motion. The articles themselves can be somewhat benign and not really give an indication of monetary amounts, but those details are in the motions. You'll see on that document if there's something highlighted in yellow, it's from last year, it hasn't been adjusted yet for this year.
So the warrant is closed, right?
So March 16th is next Monday at 4 PM is when the subject matters must be delivered. So that's the last day, though, for any petitioned articles to come in. I have not received any petitioned articles as of yet.
Okay, so then the only other board or commission or petition article is the one we heard tonight. The rest are more the standard.
No.
Oh.
But I don't know that they have monetary impact.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, with monetary impact.
You're going to have some articles, there's articles from me that have a monetary impact. So for example, so I don't just want to say no, but, okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So that, I think everyone's kind of in agreement with that plan? Okay. Okay, so then, did we want to have any additional discussions on either what we talked about at tri-board, potential 2.5 override, or now I guess probable 2.5 override, or any prior department briefings? It's getting to be 10 o'clock, so we may be a little tired.
Well, Mike wasn't there, so did you watch it? Did you have any comments about the tri-board? Or did you see?
I'm not fully caught up on the tri-board yet, so.
Because I know we all had an opportunity. I think we were all there, right? You were there.
I was not there.
Oh, you were not there too, okay. So
I watched most of it.
we had our say, so.
Yeah, so the executive summary of it is, we straw polled and everyone agreed that the warrant should contain an override. That was not to say that everyone agreed that the override, that they would personally vote or recommend the override, but they all agreed, everyone there agreed that it should be on the ballot, at least one. And then we had another discussion about should there be one override number or multiple? And that was kind of split, 7-6. And the 7 was for 1 or 2?
One.
For 1. So 7 people thought it should be 1, I think including the entire school board. And 6 people thought it should be 2. 1 that gets you to what I thought originally would be kind of a level service, which is now being called core service, and then a second that gets you a little higher. So I think everyone also kind of thought that they were willing to support the decision either way, so that if it was 1 and you thought it should be 2, you would still support the 1 going on the ballot and that sort of thing. No one would kind of, die on that hill kind of thing. So
And vice versa.
And then a lot of discussion about how, once this is decided what it's going to be, how do we
Reach folks.
educate the public about it? And there was questions about that.
Yep. There was only one person who commented, both in the beginning and in the end, for public comment, kind of in support of going forward with it. And then just, I think, general good collaboration across the committee. So I will say personally that I think the tri-board was a really good thing. This year especially, I think it's helped us to get through meetings like, I know it's 10:10 today and we had a lot on there, but if we remember back to last year, there were some that we ended after midnight.
Yeah.
I think the tri-board helped with that. But also helping with that, I think, is the new superintendent and school business manager, as well as, Jen having a year under her, and a finance director, that, to me, I think I trust the data a lot more than I did last budget season and partially the one before. So I think a lot of progress has been made in that. And we may not all agree, right, on all what should be in or what should be out, but at least we're having the good discussions. So that's my own personal opinion. Hopefully you all agree with that. All right. There were 2 sets of minutes. I have not had a chance to read them. We could also try to approve minutes if we wanted. Well, we can just do it in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
We're getting to the point where we should have them. You kind of have 3 meetings is the general thought. Jen, can I ask you one question on minutes? We've only seen 1 set of tri-board meeting minutes.
Oh, that's probably accurate.
Okay, but we take a lot of pride in having minutes up to date.
You can have Danielle do trash. If Danielle,
She asked if she should be doing them. So that's between you and her.
Okay, fair enough.
Okay.
Can we start doing the AI minutes thing? I mean,
Oh, is she sitting? Oh, no.
So I talked about in the select board budget, in contracted services, something called HayGov.
Yeah.
That is the AI minutes, the AI service for government minutes. We've been using it now for, I don't know, I guess it started to be used before I got here. We've been using it more. It's getting better. It's not there, and it requires, so it cuts down the time that it takes the human substantially to complete the minutes, but the human still has, for a meeting of this length, the human still has at least an hour of work in it. So I don't, in my personal opinion, I don't think that the software is yet at the point that we should add additional users onto it for the additional user fee. I think if the software gets, when the software gets better, I think that we could look at bringing that town-wide. But to me, the expenses wouldn't justify it where the software is right now.
does it have to be like a government approved?
It's not, no, this is just, it's not government approved. It's just, is built to capture meetings like this. So you identify the speaker, it tags the speaker, it just has kind of the cadence of a governmental meeting type minutes as opposed to a business, like an AI summary from, the Zoom AI summary would not create minutes that would stand up to the open meeting law. So that's really, it's compliance with the open meeting law that it's trying to achieve.
Yeah, I was just curious, because we have these little ones at work, and we can have meetings up to 10 people, and it nails them. I mean, they're pretty impressive.
Yeah, so it's structured for this type of meeting minute, being specifically on camera, coming from YouTube.
Gotcha. Okay.
It's getting better, though.
And again, I think I said this in a prior meeting, AI does a really good job of going through prior minutes and actually answering questions related to what that was, so.
Okay.
All right. Any committee reports? All right, any actions or topics for future meetings?
I had one.
Oh, sorry.
Just briefly, I just listened to Sewer Commission met, I don't know, the other night. I guess the driving range down by Whalum, somebody's looking to develop that. They were at Sewer Commission talking about how to connect the sewer. I think they said they had like 3 A&R lots, but they wanted to do like 8. So anybody in that area may want to pay attention to Sewer Commission and Planning Board regarding development of the driving range.
Did they indicate what for?
House lots,
House lots?
yes.
How many did they?
Well, he said he had 3 A&R. He was talking to the Sewer Commission to see exactly what it would cost to connect. That'll determine how many, I guess, additional houses he wants to put in.
Because that area, I know the driving range is not part of the high-density area, so that cannot be developed into apartments. But I do know it can go to house lots, yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
Like I said, be going to, I'm sure, well, sewer, obviously, because he was talking about potentially putting an article on to expand the sewer district area on the town meeting.
Guess I'm getting some neighbors.
Good looking
So
out.
Anybody in that area interested in that should pay attention.
Maybe if we could
Sewer and
negotiate a parking lot for the town beach, that'd be good.
Yeah, right.
So just confirming the 19th is going to be a tri-board meeting as opposed to a finance meeting.
Don't know yet.
Well,
Either or.
Jen
Possibly.
will tell us.
Okay.
No
So
later than
we are
Tuesday.
meeting on the 19th. It's just a matter of what it's going to be for.
Yeah, we will have a meeting on the 19th.
Okay.
There'll either be 7 of us or 17 of us.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so any public comment from anyone?
Yes, oh, hello, this is
Hello.
Joe from Public Access.
Hi, Joe from Public Access.
Hi, Lily solved the problem, it was not our equipment.
Okay,
Can you hear me okay?
You're in the
Really?
room, though. You're in the
Yeah,
back room, not
yeah.
on the room, in our room.
yeah. Was it my fault?
Yes.
Well, I believe that you're supposed to click on allow individuals to unmute.
On the back end.
Okay,
I believe that was the problem.
they were unmuted. Okay, What-
Right, but I think it was a setting in the Zoom.
okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Joe. All right, and with that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're adjourned. Thank you all.